Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Deckin Around. My name is Tyler,
I'm Steve.
and today we are really excited to be welcoming on James Milaras from Joker and the Thief. But before we jump into it, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. So Steve, how you doing today, man?
Don't forget to ring the bell.
There you go. Please don't forget to ring the bell. Get all of the good notifications coming from Deckin Around.
Here's the difference between Tyler and I. I'm like, yo, ring the bell. Tyler's like, please don't forget to ring the bell.
It is true, though.
Yeah.
Please ring the bell.
I'm excited, man.
I mean, so I have to say, like, I love Joker and the Thief decks. I've been excited for James to be on the show for a while. Him and I have been chatting back and forth for, probably since, like, I think Shauna was on the show, actually, about him coming on and getting it all together. And it's finally happened, which is awesome because Joker and the Thief just has such amazing decks. I think, Maiden and Dystopia are probably two of a ton of people's favorite decks. The original line of Joker and Thief in all the colorways, including like the Street Edition, all that stuff, they're just so awesome. They have such unique character to them. So I'm really excited to hear what Joker and the Thief has in the works for us, but also just talk to James about how he got to where he is today.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be fun. Does he know you have a little bit of a man crush on him, or?
Steve called me on this after the pre-show the other day. He's like, so you man crush it. I appreciate the deck. That's what it is. So.
I hear you. No, I'm excited, man. Joker and the Thief Street Edition was one of the first decks that I actually got when I got into collecting. I think it was like the fourth or fifth deck, and I just always been impressed with the artwork that they put together, and it's gonna be great chatting. We've been waiting a while for this. Yeah. I feel like we say that for every show, though. Like we booked out for so far in advance, for a little while that we were like waiting 2 months for all these guests to come on. So it's good to finally have him on and see what he's up to.
Yeah. And so I just had to check this real quick while you were talking about it. I think the reason I man crush a little is I just looked at my Kickstarter. Joker and the Thief 5th edition was actually the first deck I ever backed on Kickstarter as well. So That's probably why. That's what got me into
your first.
Jesus Christ. I'm sorry, James, who can hear all this, but isn't on yet to defend himself. So
there's no defending. That's all right.
But before we get too far into it, let's hear a word from our sponsors. Introducing the Latin Quarter playing cards and gaming chips from McClure and Stark. This ultimate poker player's chipset will turn every poker night into an underground casino night. Make sure to check them out on Kickstarter now.
You may have experienced capturing fireflies in a jar on a warm summer's night as a kid. Seeing that glow was like holding the power of lightning in your own hands. This is Marvelous Decks. Join us as we celebrate the marvelous and amazing things that surround us. Sign up and get notified at marvelousdecks.com.
And as a fun point to add to Marvelous Decks, they're actually dropping their first deck reveal this Saturday at 9:05 Central Standard Time because it's National Hummingbird Day. So make sure to check that out this Saturday. And without further ado, here is James.
James, what up, dog?
G'day.
What up, James?
What's up, everybody?
How you doing, man?
Doing pretty good. How are you guys going?
Not too bad, man. Not too bad. Surviving Thursday here while you're living in the future over in Australia.
Oh yeah,
I think
it's Friday, and
James
I'm ready for it
because he knows you have a crush on him.
Oh no, I was so flattered.
I literally had to go check that, and I was like, "Oh shit!" Like, yeah, Joker and the Thief was my first deck, so yeah, I started it.
Before me.
My bad.
Tyler swore before me.
We're not even 5 minutes in. I couldn't even last. So there you go.
Yeah, I couldn't even get to. Is it 10 minutes yet?
Well,
so
the dam has cracked open now.
the floodgates are open, guys. I'm just gonna.
No, we still have to wait for 10 minutes.
Okay, all right.
I feel like, we dropped a light one there. We're not dropping any F-bombs yet, but
no, not yet.
So James, a lot of big exciting things in the work, man, on your end. How was first off, how's COVID been treating you?
COVID has been an interesting one this year. I think for a lot of people, it's generally the same gist, but essentially, like, all of my plans got sidelined. We were going to do cardistry was here too back in May. So like all of these like really cool plans that I had sort of just got pushed to the side. So I became a farmer, basically. I just went to the garden and I grew stuff.
Dude, that's awesome.
What
so that's
grow?
basically it. Oh, like tomatoes and pumpkins and passion fruit, and I live in a tropical place, so growing stuff's pretty easy. So
nice. That's awesome.
Basically, I took like three months off JT. Really, I was still operating the brand, but like everything was put on pause, especially with USPC.
Yeah.
Sort of like ceasing production. So there wasn't much I could do. I was just like, well, time to chill.
Nice. Now you're solely J&T, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, one man show, which is
Nice.
that can be kind of difficult sometimes. Like you've got so many, you like got to learn because there's so many like different facets to running a business that you've got to really like be on top of all of it. It can be a little overwhelming sometimes, but yeah.
I can imagine. But you've brought it so far too, which is really impressive. And the fact that you've brought it through, 7 decks now and multiple variations. I mean, really, it's more than that. You have multiple versions of a lot of the Joker and the Thief decks. So you've been through a significant amount of print runs. And I think that's something that, only a handful of people really in the community can say up until like a certain, as a single person operation.
Yeah. As an indie and as an indie brand as well, it's pretty crazy because like I feel like we've got a lot of experience under our belt. Like, we've done some really I say we, but it's me. But
I say that all the time.
Yeah, it's like, but like with the cards, like we make some really cool things. There's sometimes there's errors and things that like goes completely under the radar for some people. They don't even notice. There's stuff that we notice or like I notice, and it's like could have done that better. And then there's sometimes you make mistakes and you learn from all of these things. And yeah, I feel like I've come a long way in 5 years, especially when I started the brand in high school. And
crazy.
That's impressive, man.
The funny thing is you know how you say we? That's like the staple in starting a business is you learn to even like tell people or explain to people that you have a team, even if it's just you. Like you create in your email, you have like an info at whatever J&T, and then when people respond, you just write at the end. You could write J&T team, or you can write thanks Libby, or whatever name.
Yeah,
that way they think you're bigger than you are, and you have what I mean.
I used to do like JT team as like my sign off, but now I do it as just James because it's a lot more like people are talking to, I guess, the founder, and I think there's like some value in that.
Yeah, it definitely adds some emotion to it. So
yeah, all the ones that you really don't want to talk to, you just write J&T team.
No, I love everyone.
Yeah, right. Nice try.
Oh man. Well, and I think one of the things you touched on there is it has been a learning process for you, and I think one of the things that you've probably had experience with more so than a lot of other people who go through the Kickstarter and either don't succeed or succeed but only do it once. Like you've had some ups and downs on your Kickstarter. What sort of like things have you taken away from a lot of the hard situations you've had in your Kickstarter campaigns?
Well, like Kickstarter campaigns, they're notoriously difficult. I don't think a lot of people really understand the gravity of what it takes to actually set up a Kickstarter campaign successfully. And back when I did my first Kickstarter campaign back in 2015, there was a lot of the climate of the community was very different. So I felt personally, if you were putting a minimalist deck up on Kickstarter, it generally didn't do too well. So that was part of the reason why Joker and the Thief was quite intricate to begin with, because we knew that worked. Yeah. So putting that up on Kickstarter is interesting. Like Kickstarter is a very different animal to just putting something up on your Shopify store and selling it. You've got to set up. There's a lot of marketing involved, and the layout of the campaign, the speech, like the actual copy of the campaigns is very important and conducive to your success. And you learn a lot about customer service. You learn a lot about making things right that have sort of gone wrong, or at least attempting to do that. And that it could be quite difficult to get it right every time. But it is like literally being thrown in the deep end, and it's like, okay, follow your intuition and make sure that you get what you need to get done. And you do it correctly. So, there's like a ton of different challenges involved with like launching a Kickstarter campaign.
Yeah.
Well, I had one fail. I had Dystopia originally failed. back in the day.
Which is crazy because I feel like people, like when you ask people what their favorite Joker and the Thief deck, it's either always Maidens or Dystopia. So the fact
Dystopia is
that,
like so requested now. It's like it was so underground, and now it's like everyone's like, I get like a request every week. It's like, when's Dystopia coming back? Like, I love Dystopia. Like, blah blah blah. And I'm like, damn, these got really popular. But
that's awesome though.
I was able to identify why that Kickstarter campaign sort of failed as well. During that time, like I noticed that, well, I put the goal was way too high. The marketing was too dark for Kickstarter. I felt it was too full on.
Yeah.
And
no,
also like it was printed. Yeah. And it was printed by Expert at the time. And it was like, well, people are more calling for USPC again since their quality improved.
Yeah.
And I think that was like, there was a combination of things and the way that I sort of pushed it as well, that it just sort of collapsed and didn't work. But we launched it again and it worked.
Didn't, yeah, and it succeeded. So, and I think that's one of the things that a lot of people who do Kickstarter need to take away from it. Not every campaign is going to be successful, but that doesn't mean it's a bad idea. There's a million things that could have gone wrong. It could have even been the climate of Kickstarter at the time. And so bringing it back to the drawing board and launching it at a later date may be the right move.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the things that sort of separate a good campaign from a bad one is that, like, a lot of basics, like good images, good titles, good layout, good copy, you know, no spelling mistakes, good grammatical, you know, good grammar.
Yeah.
Good grammar and stuff like that. You know what I mean. Yeah.
Good grammatical stuff.
I mean, it's very true though.
Nice
like when
words.
it's like when you're trying to sell anything though, and I think that's what really people forget sometimes is that like Kickstarter is a sales pitch. Like if you went in somewhere and you were like, "Hey, I'm interested in this item, this product," and someone was like, "Yeah, it's great," and that's all they told you, you're gonna be like, "All right, well, why is it great? Tell me more about it." And they're like, "Oh yeah, stuff." Like they're not giving you details. Like it's not gonna encourage you to buy into it. And Kickstarter
there's only one person that works with.
Well, yeah, I mean, I could probably think of like
Low-Trek can say the deck's gonna be dope. He won't show you a picture, and everyone's like, "Give me 10 of them.
I'll take 2 bricks."
Yeah, he's the only one that can get away with that.
He really, and he knows it though too, and I think he loves it. That's like that's his little like his god power there.
Yeah, he doesn't take advantage of it though. That's good.
No, he's good with it, but it is always funny to see how much you know, and I think though that's the brand. That's really building out your brand. He's built out a brand where people know what he's going to deliver, and I think that's obviously what all brands aspire to have is that loyalty that someone's going to buy it even sight unseen. Though I think, you know, I do think there's other brands that could probably pull that off in this day and age. I think there's a few out there, but like they just don't go that route. So maybe we'll see it more in the future.
It depends on the market they're targeting as well. Like, you know, there's a lot of brands that get ragged on just because they're cardistry decks. And it's like, it's not really appealing to that particular collector's market. Like because the thing is, a lot of people I'm not sure realize about Joker and the Thief is that like, I'm a cardist, first and foremost, which is interesting because like how many cardistry brands bring out something that's as detailed as this?
You know, very few.
So it really depends. I
mean, I think you're probably one of the only cardistry brands that consistently uses foils, metallic inks, like a lot of things that appeal to that collector's community. Like, and I think when I first realized, like when I first found out you were a cardist, I was like, damn, that's interesting because it doesn't come off necessarily as a cardistry deck because of the intricacy of the design and all of the detail to it. And the metallic ink, like I said, just really kind of puts it to a whole different kind of target market. But at the same time, like the simple like colorway of like a solid color, the accent, and then that white background that really comes through makes it a visually appealing deck though as well for that use.
Well, I mean, back in the day, people weren't like a cardistry deck didn't really exist before the Verts. You know, like it was everyone was just, you know, using Theory 11 decks or Dan and Dave decks and things like that. So like, I guess it's kind of similar to that. You can use them for cardistry. I like to think of Joker and the Thief as a brand for everybody. So like everybody can like have a good time with a Joker and the Thief deck. They can, if you're a cardist, you can pick them up. They're going to handle great. They're going to look great. If you're a collector, it's going to be the pride on like your shelf. If you're a magician, like they're quite practical for magicians, even though a lot of the decks are one way, but it's not immediately so. It's not immediately recognizable. So
yeah,
like,
it's a subtle one way.
yeah, and like most people, like we just encourage a lot of people to get on board and enjoy the brand. But our passion is cardistry, and cardistry is super freaking cool. So, you know, that's the sort of direction that we head in, and we want to sort of have, you know, our foot in both cardistry and sort of more, you know, intricate designs. Which is something that we're actively working on as well.
Yeah, no, which I think
how do you like my cardistry skills?
Oh, sick, the worm. That's a classic, you know. Steve, that was very impressive.
I learned it from Dan Buck.
Oh yeah, the best.
That's too funny. So what actually got you into cardistry then?
It was, so when I was back in high school, I had a friend of mine who did magic, and he also, like, that was sort of my in to sort of like playing cards and the world of that. So we started doing magic, and then I did a routine on YouTube as a kid of like a Howard Hamburg routine. I'm not sure if you know that magician. And then I got absolutely roasted by the magic community. It's like, I'm like 13 or 14. I'm like, oh man, this sucks. Like, I was like, I don't want to be like a part of this. That just scared me away from magic. And we then saw Dan and Dave Buck, I think eventually through magic, and then we were like, oh damn, like this like cardistry stuff, this is cool. Like, we didn't want to do anything else. And at our school, we became like the cardistry guys. Like, every teacher was cool with it. Like, we would like practice cardistry, like under the desk, like science class, or like at lunch breaks or wherever. And yeah, fortunately, my school was very, very accepting of it. But that's how I sort of got into cardistry. I saw Dan and Dave, and I was like, oh, damn,
that's awesome.
That's cool, and that's what I want to do, because it's out in the open. You know, it's like cardistry is like, I respect the hell out of magic. Like, magic is just absolutely mind-boggling, and the work that goes into like the thousands of hours that goes into something that's invisible is like so like underrated. Cardistry, though, I like it because you can immediately see the skill, whereas with magic it's invisible. So it's immediately appreciated. It's appreciated instantly, I guess, in terms of technique. And also, it's a lot more casual. So people are like, can you do a magic trick for me? I'm like, no, but I do cardistry. Here, check this out, and then let's have a drink and like get on with it. You know?
Yeah.
No, that's awesome.
The differences are really cool. I think they definitely can be done together. I'm all about the basics when it comes to cardistry. All this crazy stuff that people are doing that takes like 36 minutes to get into, and then they're like this, and there's like 96 cards in each hand. But it takes them like 20 minutes to get into, and there's no no application for it. You'll never use it except for a cool picture or whatever. I just like the really flowy stuff that's nice and, you know.
Well, yeah, I like a lot of the classic stuff. Like, to me, like Dan and Dave's work is like the epitome of what cardistry is. But I love a lot of like the more modern stuff, the stuff coming out of Anyone Worldwide, and like the stuff that Fontaine's producing. Like, it's fantastic. I love seeing it. Yeah, I mean, because there's an abundance of moves nowadays, I feel a lot, well, because I run a business now, it's a lot more hard for me to sort of practice more consistently. So it's made me a lot more selective on what moves that I pick, because there's so much out there. You can now pick, okay, I like this style, I'm going to learn this move, and that will help you develop your own style going forward in terms of cardistry.
Right.
So that's what, sort of how I sort of approach it nowadays.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think.
Have you guys given it a crack? Have you tried like practicing diligently?
No, I mean, I'm more magic. I like magic more, but I have practiced stuff that I think could be used within magic. You know, like fanning stuff. I think ATM and was it Lego Love or something?
Oh yeah, by Nikolai.
Like Like I think like that stuff for me, or like the riffle fan, like stuff that I can use within Magic that is a little showy but not crazy. I haven't gotten too much into the packets cut yet. Packet cuts other than Sybil and the worm, but I prefer to practice Magic than cardistry.
Fair enough. Yeah. No, that's cool. Again, like even if Magic, I like Dan and Dave's style. Like I just like their style. In the terms of that, it's just so like, so casual and just like off the cuff. And it's like, okay, check this out. It's all in the hands. There's no setup. And if I'm not sure if I'm correct in saying this, but I think that was sort of inspired by David Blaine's Street Magic. I'm not sure if that's actually entirely accurate, but I can see why in sort of like a practical sense. It's just like you can do it anywhere in the hands. Right. But yeah,
we're getting a few requests to see show us some card moves.
Oh God, Jesus!
Let's see it, man. Come on, man. Let's see it.
Do you want to see like an original flourish of mine? I've got to publish it.
Yeah.
If I screw up, guys, in the chat, guys, if I screw up, have mercy.
I'm going to make it even worse, too. I'm going to make you big on the screen. How's that?
Oh, God. Okay. I'm going to show you one move, like one of my original ones. Okay.
Go for it.
All right. So check this. Jeez, this is a little strange. Let me move this down. Okay. All right.
Just don't stand up.
So that's one of my original moves. I'll do this one again. This is just like a little like 3-packet thing that I sort of did while I was just... Yeah, it's okay. It's not bad.
What do you call it?
I haven't got a name for it yet. I've got to put it out. I have no idea what to call it.
Call it chicken feet.
No, I'm good. I'm all right.
People keep talking about it in there.
I don't understand what the chicken feet thing is all about, but all right.
I don't either, bro.
Let's keep on trucking.
Sometimes we don't understand what's going on in the
sometimes the chat's off on its own little show, but no, and I think
we'll let that happen.
No, I think the cool thing about that though is like your hands are still very close together, but you can see all the visual movement, which is really cool.
Yeah, it started off as one grip, and it's like usually with cardistry with me, if I come up with an original idea, I have to force myself to sit down and just do it over and over and over again. Otherwise, I'll just forget it and I'll be like, oh well, that's gone now. But it was like. It literally started off with like this grip. It's like this reverse pistol grip. Yeah. And I thought like, what's the weirdest, most awkward way to get into a cut? And it eventually sort of like started from there, and I was breaking off packets and doing all sorts of stuff.
It's kind of like the start of a fan, a thumb fan, kind of. Sort
of, but like, yeah, I guess so. But maybe in the opposite hand. But it's this weird sort of like grip, but it's being broken off, and then there's some sort of yogic movement that I think a lot about.
Sell it that way.
Yeah.
Well, I honestly, I think of cardistry a lot like that, a lot like yoga and meditation, because I'm into yoga and meditation. I'm a meditator, and I fall in and out of yoga quite a lot. But I think of cardistry like that in the sense that it's very conscious, and it's very focused, and those movements can be quite relaxing. It puts you into that flow state.
Yeah.
Eventually. Well, that's like with anything, like if you're you're working out or you're doing whatever, you're in that state for a prolonged period of time, and it just becomes natural. And I think that's what happens when you've got cards in your hand all day, and then you go and practice at night. You're like just absolutely smashing out cool stuff. So yeah, it's an interesting way of thinking about it. I don't think many people have thought of cardistry as meditation, but you should.
Oh, for sure.
I think.
Definitely. I think so. I think anything like that takes a lot of attention and a lot of practice and a lot of, what's the word? A lot of, I guess, flowiness, I guess you can say.
Yeah.
Anything that takes... anything that takes you away from stress could be considered meditational, right? And I think
I guess so. I think it's I think it's just being in that zone of sort of focus, and that sort of you're in your space.
People can get it shooting, right?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they can go to a range, or they can be on silks, or they can be rock climbing,
Right.
or they can be jujitsu. Like there's so many things that within their own element, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like being in the zone, and like
Yeah.
that's the best place to be for cardistry. Like you see some of these videos, like those guys, you know, they're just paying so much attention to those moves.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you very rarely see
beautiful.
people doing cardistry and like looking up to face the audience. It's always down because they're in that concentration mode.
Yeah, but you know what else? In terms of a performance thing, I'm not a big fan of that. Like, I'm not a big fan of like just being like small and sort of like focused in on it. Like,
Yeah.
I like the way that the verts express themselves by like, you know, being out, and like the cards are out, and they're in full view, and they look relaxed, and it's in the hands. That's performance art to me.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think one of the
basics.
well, I think that's, I think Sean's very much like that too. So I'm sure you and him, having done a lot of cardistry together in general, that's probably where you see a lot of that come out as well. And how did that connection kind of happen?
Me and Sean, Sean's like one of my best friends. Like, I love that guy.
He's an awesome
But
dude.
we met for the first time. We were like internet friends for quite a while, like through Instagram and whatever, but we hadn't really had too much communication, and we finally met in CardistryCon LA. We hung out for a bit, and then it was more Hong Kong CardistryCon, the lead up to that. That was, super, like, our connection sort of came together, and it was at the CardistryCon after party, and I was like, hey, dude, and we're like both like a little bit drunk. I was like, hey, dude, I have this like opportunity like to go to Nepal and do like a film for cardistry. And he's like,
nice.
Yeah, man. Like, he's like, yeah, like absolutely, like 100%. Let's do it. And he's like not knowing that it's actually ever gonna happen.
Yeah.
And then so that ended up happening, the Nepal trip, last year, right? God, so much time has passed.
Was it last year or was it 2019 or 2018?
I don't know. I feel like I've aged 10 years in like 6 months.
I mean, that's basically how COVID works.
I know. It was like, I think it was last year at some point. Yeah.
I think, no, that's funny. I mean, I think he mentioned it a little bit when he was on the show that you two had gone. He didn't go into too much detail though. And I know really on your end, like, I had watched the documentary. I actually thought it was awesome. I was really like, wow, this is so cool. This cardistry going to parts of the world. And I think the fact of it that like Nepal has such a negative stigma against cards because of the gambling issue. Mm-hmm. And then, bringing it into a light where it's more about, seeing the positive of cards was really phenomenal. And I think, I'm sure that was a blast, man. How did you actually get involved in the process though?
So like in terms of that process, so like my girlfriend at the time, she knew this charity in my hometown, and basically, she was like friends with them, and then I got in contact, and they were immediately impressed with cardistry, which is really cool. And he was like Som, who is the owner of that charity, or the person who runs it, he was like just ideas flowing out. He's like, wow, imagine like if the kids saw this, and like imagine like this creative outlet. And we're like, well, let's maybe do something. And then I thought on the idea, and we're like, well, I personally love travel. Like I love the experience of traveling, like the memories that you generate and the things like that. So I said I thought, well, how about we do something? So I'm like, why don't I go to the village? Why don't I go to Batasi and we'll do some cardistry and show the kids. And Sean, I thought, well, I need somebody to help me film it. And I thought, well, Sean's like super great with the camera. Like Sean's awesome. I thought, and also we're like really, really good friends. So like, I think it would be really cool. So I said to Sean, like, and then that opportunity presented itself in Hong Kong, and he was totally down for it. And then we ended up going to Kathmandu,
nice.
which is quite not a lot of people, I'm sure not a lot of people have been, but Kathmandu as a place is just incredible. Incredible. Like it is a place of contrast. Like people will say that about the subcontinent, like India and Nepal is like that entire region of the world is like, there's like amazing highs, like some amazing, beautiful things. And then it's also like like some really low lows, but it makes it such a unique experience. And like, you know, I experienced both of those things while I was there in Nepal, and I've got some stories if you want them.
Absolutely.
But,
Hell yeah.
We always love a good
Yeah.
story about cardistry in foreign countries. Why not?
Yeah, it was very interesting. So like I flew from Australia to Nepal, and like for me that was quite a nerve-wracking thing. I'd been to developing nations before, but this is the first time I was going to like this. It's literally the second poorest country in Asia. And I was quite nervous. Like I was thinking like, oh man, how's this all going to work? I was very, very nervous on the plane. And I got to Singapore and I was slightly freaking out a little bit. And I thought, no, like go and do it. Like go towards that fear. Like if you've got some sort of fear, or you've got some sort of nervousness, like generally you're on the right track. Excuse me. And so I got there and I spent like, I think it was 6 days in Kathmandu exploring the city on my own before Sean got there. And sort of planning the place out, planning the film out, and looking around the place. And then I get a message from Sean. Like Sean's due to fly in from San Francisco to Nepal, and his flight was cancelled out of Portland because San Francisco had like really bad winds. And I'm sure that this was in the film, but this almost broke the entire project, because if Sean wasn't able to get to Kathmandu, it would have been dead in the water, would have been totally done. So what ended up happening is that he waited in line for something like 8 hours to talk to like representatives to get him on a different flight. And he literally eventually flew from San Francisco to Turkey, and then Turkey to Kathmandu, which if you're sort of following, that's around the entire world. So he flew literally around the planet to get and do this project, which is like
That's
a
awesome.
feat in of itself. And I said, I'm like, please, man, can you? And he's like, I'm going to try. And he did. And I was like, it was amazing. We lost a day, but it was incredible. Like Sean turned up, and it was great from there.
That really is awesome.
Yeah, from there we hiked up to like the village. So essentially, what we did a 2-day hike. So we did one. We got to like a halfway point, which is nestled in like the foothills of the Himalayas, and that was really, really cool. Like that experience was awesome. Like we got to the halfway point, had probably the best sleep ever, just because it was so cold and we're so worn out from hiking for like 8 hours.
That's
and
crazy.
then we went up to the village and we started shooting with the kids, and it was amazing. It was a really, really beautiful experience. Very eye-opening, very visceral, very raw.
Yeah.
And you learn a lot about yourself in those sort of situations.
You learn a lot about other people too.
Absolutely. And their situations, it gives you the biggest thing I took away from the whole trip was perspective. And it's like, okay, all right, so I got my problems, but are my problems actually really that like important compared to other people? It's like, why don't you just get on with it and get over it? You know, like, it's like, especially for me and my own problems, like it's not discounting the issues that you may have, but it's like, okay, could be worse, you know, like be grateful for what you've got. And that's what I learned from that, which was cool. But a funny story. Nobody knows this, but I got sick while I was there on the last day. I got sick, and it was
the last day. You lucked
that's
out,
brutal.
man. Most people get sick
out,
in the middle.
I mean,
So
I feel like
I
having to travel
very
sick is
well.
pretty bad now.
Like being like up in the Himalayan mountains. That's probably the worst place.
So
to get sick.
here's the thing about being sick here and about being sick there. When you're sick over there, like your insides come out.
Oh God, I'm having
Like
flashbacks.
it is not. I've heard so many stories from friends. It is not pretty, man. It's like it's a different type of sickness, man.
Mm-hmm.
And what actually got you sick over there? Was it like food, water, or what?
I suspect it was food, because I'd been very good with food up until that point, and I feel like, you know, strapping young lad. I've got a gut of iron usually,
Yeah.
but like, and
No
I was
such
doing
thing.
very well. Yeah, I know. I was doing very well, and then I think it was when I got to the village, because it was right about the time when like food poisoning kicks in. Right, it's like a 6-hour window. I had this. I don't know what it was. It was some sort of like, I'm trying, because I'm super adventurous. I'm like, yeah, I'll try this, and like, give me that. Like, that's weird. I'll try that. Blah 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 blah. And they brought out this thing, and I don't think it wasn't intentional, obviously, but it was this. I think it was like this some sort of like fermented mushroom sauce that I had on this dal rice, and I think something was bad because because later, like, we were doing all the filming, and after the filming, there was like, we were doing this presentation for the kids, and I was like to Sean, I was like, I gotta go. Like, I'm not in good shape right now. Yeah. So we had like shot everything, and it's probably like like a not safe for work story. Oh, but yeah, that was pretty full on. And that night I was like spewing my guts out. You know, it was, and Sean was like there. It was like, are you okay? Like, you're gonna be all right. You'll survive. Like, he's like nursing me back to health.
As he's recording everything.
Oh man, I kind of wish he did, because I think it would have been hilarious. Just me suffering, just dying. You know, like it was really bad. Like, the experience was beautiful, like up until that point, and then I was like just hit by a ton of bricks. It just out for the count. But I was good. Like, and Sean had caught something, I think, from like maybe like in Kathmandu or one of the kids. So he started getting a cold. And he's like all sniffly, and like, so we were in bad shape by the end of this project.
I think I told you my friend goes there a lot, and he's, you know, it's nothing for him. And he pretty much, when he first started going, he learned to what's the best way to say it? He learned to be okay with literally shitting yourself on the side of the road. Like, you just have to be okay with it. Literally shitting yourself.
I mean, you got no other choice, I think, at some point.
I took these things called gastro stops just to prevent that. Just, you know. Anyway, this is like, yeah. So anyway, I got sick. So we'll just put that to the side. But it got worse because while we were sort of like, by midday the next day, we had both sort of like recovered. And I was like, okay, I can stand it. I'm like generally, you know, not dying anymore. But then we had a Jeep that wasn't a Jeep, it was a Mahindra, and this very shoddily built Indian made vehicle. And we were up in the Himalayas, and we had a driver take us back down these mountain passes back to Kathmandu, which turned out to be like a 5 or 6 hour ordeal in and of itself. These trucks don't have very good suspension, and the roads are not very good. So we're going down these mountain roads, and like Sean's like a little bit like, oh dude, are we gonna be okay? Like, there's like a 3,000 foot drop there, and like you've never been like off-roading before. And like being from like rural Australia, I'm like, yeah, this is fine. Like this is totally normal. Like I know what's going on here. And the driver's fine. But then it started to get like, it was about half an hour in, and like the novelty had worn off. And I'm like, okay, now this is starting to get a little bit dicey, because like on my immediate left is like a 3,000 sheer drop.
And they drive fast too. They don't give a shit.
Yeah. They do not care. It's the Autobahn as far as they're concerned.
Dude, they do that shit every day, like 10 times a day. Like they know how to do that.
That's what I said to Sean. I'm like, well, I assume he's a very good driver because he's not dead. So he's like, you know.
Or it's his first day on the job, so.
But like, and this is when I lost total confidence, because we were going down this mountain pass, and there's it's just the dirt roads undulating and a 3,000 foot drop, and then you can see what looks like fiery crashes at the bottom. And I'm like, oh Jesus. So I said to Sean, I'm like, dude, I said, keep your hand on the door handle, because if we need to bail out, I was genuine, like this was serious. It was like, if we need to bail out, we got to bail out of this goddamn truck. And so we get to this particular point. You know, when you have sort of like it's not a hairpin bend where you go back down the pass. This was almost like it came to like a right, like just a tight angle. Yeah. So we're in this like shitty truck And I shit you not, the wheels are at like the edge of the cliff. So he drives right up to the edge of the cliff, and then he like reverses, he puts the truck to reverse, and the reverse gear is weak, so it's like rocking and rocking and rocking. We go back, and I'm praying.
White dudes all scared.
I'm like, oh, but that's the funniest thing. Like, to add insult to injury, so we finally turn around, and like Sean and I are like, oh, thank God for that. And the driver turns around, and he looks at us, goes like this. I'm like, turn the fuck around, like hands off the wheel. Like he was like hands off the wheel, like this, like really turning around. I'm like, no, hands on the wheel, please. I don't want to die. And then it was just like 6 hours of just like this for like 6 hours. So that was fun. And we were there for 2 days, and we were like, we want to go home. I got on the flight to Singapore, and I was like, no, I'm going to check into a business lounge. I checked into a business lounge, and I had the first proper hot shower I had in like a week and a half, 2 weeks. And I tell you what, if you have never ever like experienced something really rough on you, like you've gone through something really difficult physically, and you go and have some sort of basic amenity.
Yeah.
You take it for granted. It's like, wow, the shower is like a godsend. It's like amazing.
Did you look for the bucket in the shower?
Oh, yeah. Well, when I got to Singapore, there was no need for a bucket, so
that's what I'm saying. Did you get there and you were like, "Where's the bucket?" Oh, wait.
Oh, I was looking for the toilet. I thought, okay, is there an actual toilet where I could sit on it? And there was one. I was like, thank God.
Oh my God, that is too funny.
That was the Nepal experience, but it turned out to be a great project, and we raised $2,500 for the kids, or 2,400 Australian.
Nice. Now, where can people watch the movie if they want?
That's on Sean's YouTube channel.
Yeah, I'll link to it below. I actually just checked it out the other day. I'll drop that in the comments, though.
It's worth a watch. It's a fun little light-hearted adventure. But I wish we kind of if we put in the grosser bits, like if we put in the bits where the hardship, it would have taken away from the main message. I think that's why, even though it wasn't filmed, that's why we were sort of like, okay,
Well, I think also you have to go to your audience on that one though too. And I think with cardistry, it's interesting. This kind of like demographic thing, and I'm sure running a business, you're aware of the demographics within cardistry. It always like blows my mind how different the demographic for cardistry is versus magic or even collecting. Which when you really get into magic, you're either like 9 to 11 or 25 plus. Versus like cardistry, which is a solid like 13 to 19, seems to be that like sweet spot of a lot of cardists. And yeah, you get a 13-year-old kid talking about like the hardships of living in Nepal. He's gonna be like, all right, maybe this isn't for me. So yeah.
It's just interesting. Also, as like nobody's really done like a travel film for cardistry before, and that's something that's part of the brand that I sort of want to extend. So like I mentioned at the start of the podcast that I want to do. Cardistry was here too, which is going to be. It's shelved at the moment due to COVID, but we're going to do it like a road trip film.
Yeah, that'll be awesome.
Go to Thailand. Go to Thailand.
I want to do like what Top Gear did, and they did it. They went through Vietnam on scooters. I think that would be just.
Oh, dude! I mean, you wouldn't drive anything else but scooters out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
You go to Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam, dude. You'll have a blast there. They'd love it. Yeah.
I think it'd be great.
That would be awesome
for the ride. Like we're going to do a US road trip, so it's going to be a good time. We're going to focus on it's not going to be a charitable aspect this time, but we're going to focus on some different thematics and some different sort of stories. And I think it's going to be a good time. I just want to keep doing this sort of travel stuff. I was heavily inspired by Top Gear actually for the brand. So I love it. If you're not aware, people who are watching, if you're not aware of what Top Gear is, it's a British motoring show that was, I think, one of the most watched television shows like ever at one point. But yeah, very inspirational for me.
I mean, it's a great show. It's understandable.
Yeah.
Well, it goes a bit deeper than that because I used to do deck reviews. Not a lot of people know that. Back in the day, like Joker and the Thief did deck reviews. And
really?
You could see and we did it. Like that shot, that archetypical shot where like it's like an overhead shot, and people like pulling the cards out, and they're like, "Well, this is the design," and they talk for like 9 minutes on the design, like, "And this is the ace of spades." And look, here's like pips, and the pips look like this. If you go really close up, and it's like we can see the goddamn design. Tell us how it feels. And that's what sorry for all the deck reviewers out there, but you're doing it wrong. Sorry, but that's okay. All love. The way that we did it was basically, it's like, okay, you can see the design, give it some good visuals, don't focus too much on the design of the deck. Let's see how it feels. And as cardists, we can actually break in a deck and sort of determine how each deck feels individually to each other. And I felt like that was important. And it's actually what got us noticed that was with my friend in high school. And that's what got us noticed by Art of Play. And that's how this was pretty much perpetuated into bringing out our own deck.
That's really cool.
So, yeah,
That's
but
cool.
we'd like Top Gear would do their reviews, like, so it was sort of like we'd rip off Top Gear and be like, okay, cool visuals, like sort of write a script for it, etc.
Yeah, good luck doing that nowadays. There's like 750,000 decks coming out every week.
Oh, well, even back in like 2013, like 2014, we were struggling because it was like, well, what do we pick? And we would do like seasons, like exactly like Top Gear would do. We would find, the best decks that we like to review.
Which makes sense,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, there's so many decks. I mean, I think, especially with COVID and people having a lot of time in their hands and wanting to have a creative outlet, there's just a ton of decks coming out. And then on top of that, if it's also funny because, like, who are you reviewing the deck for? Like you said, for cardists, you want to know how it feels, how it handles, things like that. For a collector, you want to see all those fine details. For a magician, you want to know, what the courts look like, what sort of gaff cards there are. So the target market for your review as well is going to also dictate what decks you actually take a look at, because you're not going to look at like a Nikolai Aero deck when it's like for cardists, someone who's using NPCC that's highly detailed.
If I was doing deck reviews nowadays, I would still be doing a mix. So I'd be doing decks that are more considered collector's decks. I would still be doing, cardistry decks, things like that. Yeah. But I'd probably be picking the most unique sort of stuff and maybe even some things that look like flops. But I would sort of be, I would be still doing the same format and showing the handling, because again, it still showed those details, showcase those details of the cards. But, you can look at product pictures for that.
Yeah.
And you can see those details.
I look at it this way, and Tyler and I, we do reviews, I guess you can call them. They're not. Did we really just do that together?
Yeah, we did.
Did you do that simultaneous air quotes?
We hang out way too much.
Ready? Let's all do air quotes at the same time.
Yeah.
So basically, everybody's deck reviews are like 15 minutes long. They're like 12 to 15 minutes long, and I might like a deck, but I don't give a fuck. I'm not going to watch a 15-minute deck review. Especially, I don't care what anybody says. You're a cardist,
unless you're Marquez Brownlee. No, I'm not watching like a 15-minute video on the deck playing cards. Unless you've got the charisma of that guy.
Yeah. Who?
Of Marquez Brownlee, MKBHD on YouTube. He's a tech reviewer. Oh. But super but anyway, he's super charismatic and it's very well produced, his reviews.
Like Peter McKinnon. I'll watch a Peter McKinnon deck review for 45 minutes if I have to. But what it comes down to, it doesn't matter if you're a cardist, you're a magician, you're a collector, or whatever. Every USPCC deck generally feels the same. Every Katamundi Slimline B9 generally feels the same. There are going to be slim differences in between them based on the humidity, the paper, blah 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 blah. But when it comes down to it, they're all USPCC decks that come out nowadays. They're all going to generally feel the same in your hand.
And an argument could be made for that generally they feel quite similar, but I think there's still some quite glaring differences, especially 5 years ago. There definitely hits and misses, and decks would feel different. But there are a lot of determining factors that most decks coming out on Crush stock feel quite similar. However, a lot of that is determined. The handling is determined on the ink saturation of the paper. Like I found that also metallic inks tend to impact the handling
of course,
quite a lot.
foil, all that stuff.
Oh yeah, but even like the differences between B and crush stock is very different as well. I think like traditional B casino stock's actually really, really good. And
right, but what I'm saying though is if you get 6 decks that are printed on B stock, those 6 decks are generally going to feel the same. If you get 6 decks that are crushed B stock or crushed bicycle stock or Cotamundi's slimline bean, those are all going to feel within that family exactly the same.
And so let's add one caveat to that, though, too. To most people, they're going to feel the same. I think there are certain people who hands down can tell the difference. Like, think about it this way. Jeremy Griffith, he can tell you the difference between any deck because he plays with them and handles them differently than most people. I think if you've been handling decks...
Shout out to Jeremy. He's a great guy.
Oh no, he's phenomenal. We had him on maybe 6-7 episodes ago, and his nicest guy in the world, hands down, nicest guy in the world. But his card handling skills are next level, and he's humble about it, which I absolutely love. But like no joke, his skills are next level. Someone like that who can pull out a new deck of cards, feel every variation between the cards in that deck, is going to know the difference between 2 standard bicycle decks. But most people are not at that level. Probably 98% of people aren't at that level.
I guess think, so. It depends on what you do with the cards, I suppose.
Yeah,
if you are a cardist or you are a mechanic,
I just think if you line up 6, he'll be able to tell the difference. And I think Jeremy is like OG GOAT for sure. But I think if you put 6 decks side by side, they're all crushed, all have 2,500 run. They were printed, whatever, within a week of each other. They're going to have obviously little differences based on, the heat, how, where in line they were printed, blah, 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 for all that. But the general breakdown of that deck is going to be the exact same between those 6. If they were all lined up, he probably could say, this one feels a little bit softer. This one feels a little bit more like snappier or whatever. But if they weren't lined up and you got one after the other a day late, I guarantee you wouldn't be able to tell the difference between those 6.
Yeah, I mean, if they were all printed in around the same time, but like that's just not how it works, though. It's like a lot of like the printing schedules are, often it takes, you can have decks that are printed in January and decks that are printed in March or even like July, and they feel different. Like I don't have any way, obviously, to verify this, but I have heard, and I also feel that potentially a deck printed in winter versus printed in summer will handle differently.
I mean, that definitely makes sense. Yeah, I mean, you got to figure there's something like in most climates, like at least most climates that have both a temperate summer and a winter, there's about a 20% humidity difference between those seasons. So, and that's a pretty significant difference. Like if it was 5%, that's not much, but 20% is a pretty big swing. So I can
and that affects that affects like buckling and stuff like that, depending on the deck. But when you're doing a review and you're doing it on a crush deck, let's say, and you do the review, your review is probably going to be the same for all crushed decks. It's going to be like, it handles great. I can do a great pocket cut. You're generally going to say the same thing.
And I think it also depends on how much work you put into it. If you're handling a deck for a couple weeks before you do a review on it, you may get a more detailed review. But I doubt most people are. But I don't think a lot of people do that, to be honest. I think most people are pulling out a deck, pulling off the cello, checking it out, playing with it for a couple minutes, and then being like, "Yeah, this feels great."
But that's the only way. That's the only way to do it. Like with nothing else that could, be detrimental to it. Because one day you may eat chicken strips and you play with your cards.
Yeah,
and put a layer of grease on it, and it feels different.
No, but the thing about that is if you've got the intention to create a review and you've got a deck under review, you're going to make sure you have clean hands. Like that's the way we did it. It's like we'd have clean hands. We'd be putting it through its paces over like a week or two and like using it heavily. And like we found that like some decks just washed out better once they've been broken in than other decks did. Like one of the best decks that I've ever handled is the original vintage plaids. Like, I still have not felt a deck of playing cards of the original vintage players, when you put them through their paces, they are one of the best handling decks ever, I feel.
Yeah. Everybody loves that deck.
It's a good looking
Yeah.
deck. Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah,
It's just funny. Like nowadays, people get their decks, or people get decks, and they're like, "This is the best deck I've ever felt." And then they'll get one a week later, and they'll be like, "This is the best deck I ever felt." And then they'll get one a week after that. This is the best deck I ever felt. It's just
It's only so many
feels
best
all
decks.
the same,
Yeah,
guys.
there's a lot of credit, like, to what you're saying as well. Like, a lot of the decks nowadays, they do feel quite similar, granted, but some are just going to hold up better.
Yeah, and I think it's
Um,
really, it's the like I said, and like you said, you use it over the course of several weeks and you really put it through your paces. Most people aren't doing that these days. Like, I don't know of any reviewers who are really putting it through a significant amount of usage before. Yeah, I mean, at this point, like Steve's not
so gross.
Yeah, we could review that, but like,
let me tell you something. We can review this deck. This is the knockout, the Nocturne deck by Alex Pendrea, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've been using it for months, and as you can tell, it's disgusting. But it handles it handles wonderfully. Oh yeah. Absolutely. And I'm sitting in this boiling hot room all the time playing with it. And it, while I'm in the room, it's a little chunky, but once it cools off and the temperature gets a little cooler on it, handles like a dream still. Yeah. I feel like most decks behave like that. Another point is how sharp the blades are when the cutting process happens on the uncut sheets, because like, for example, like I've had decks that feel really gritty on the sides. They feel like super rough and actually kind of, I don't want to say sharp, like, I haven't got sensitive fingers or whatever, but like it just doesn't feel super smooth, right?
Yeah.
But there's an old, I'm not sure if you guys, you must know of like Alan Hagen and like Chris Hessner's. So like back in the day, Alan shot a lot of cardistry videos and as a cardist himself, very like old school guys. And they had a trick, and I use it occasionally, is you get like a nail buff, like a nail file. And you actually like sort of just, shave down the sides just gently, and it smooths out the cards, makes them handle a little better. But some decks just are cut better, some decks just aren't, and that dramatically affects the handling too. But whatever.
No, for sure.
And that's the thing, though. I think the interesting thing about it is, in this day and age, the target market, I think, for reviewers has changed to some extent, because I think you have so many people coming into cardistry and Magic and collecting that the reviewers aren't operating at the level that people who have been doing this for a long period of time are at. You're not going to sit there and look at a deck review for a deck you want to buy because you've been handling playing cards for years, and if you like it, the printer, you're going to give it a shot, you're going to pick it up. It's the people who like have been in the community for weeks, months maybe, and aren't really operating at that level. So the little bit of insight they get from the review allows them to make a decision, more so than being like, okay, am I going to get 4 years of use out of this or something like that? So I think that there's been a pretty, and not that it's a bad shift. I think if anything, it means that there's so much more volume coming into the communities as a whole that it just makes sense that it's kind of adjusted that way.
Do you think the community is like growing exponentially? Do you think is it shrinking? Is it growing? Are people bailing out? What's the deal?
So I think it depends. I personally
all of
think
the above.
So I think it depends which community you talk about. If you talk about the playing card community as a whole, I think there's without a doubt growth. I think on the collector side, collectors are pretty much a sustaining number. I think over time, people come in, people leave, and it always fluctuates between maybe like 300 to 600 modern card collectors who are active at any given point in time. Sometimes you might get some old, collectors who aren't that active, but someone like Jody Eklund puts out a deck and 1,100 people coming back it. Well, there's a lot of variation there from that. I think ultimately, cardistry community, hands down growing. I don't know if I'd say exponentially, but definitely on a large growth curve there. I'd also say that probably the Magic community as well, especially the gimmick side of Magic, is mostly driven by like TikTok and Reels and things like that.
Right.
I think I think Magic is always going to grow a lot faster than cardistry because it's more well known, right? And
Yeah.
More people are seeing it. You have people like David Blaine. You have people, that are really, Penn and Teller fool us. So it's more widely known. So you're always going to have more growth within Magic. I think after people learn Magic, and we even talk to a lot of people on the show that are guests that start out in Magic and then they move to cardistry. And then whether they stay with cardistry or do both, varies. But I think collecting wise, I think I'm going to say it's double what Tyler think it is. I think there's up to 1,000, 1,200 like collectors in the community. A lot of them aren't on Instagram, and we could see that with Jody Eklund decks or your stuff like that, because I don't think there's cardists who want a Jody Eklund deck for the most part, right?
No, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. No,
that's same thing with Steve. Point. Same thing with Steve Minty. You're looking at decks, or Alex Chin. You're looking at decks like this that collectors are buying, and you have 500-600 backers or 1,100 backers or whatever it is. So I think that some of those aren't maybe card collectors. They're just maybe they like that design of deck because they're into foxes or whatever the hell it may be.
Yeah.
So I think the card collecting community is around 1,000 people, give or take, a little bit. And then cardistry, like Tyler said, I agree. I think it's definitely growing. And I think, it goes up and down, based on probably age and stuff like that. Once people get to a certain age, maybe they just get too busy and it falls off for a while. And
I guess it depends on people's situations. I just find also like, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just feeling like, in terms of like JT, I feel like I'm in this weird position where I'm sort of like appealing to a lot of different communities at the same time. And it's like, I feel like, I guess I wouldn't say fears, but one of my concerns is that I will bring out a deck that's more tailored to cardistry, and then the collectors will be like, this isn't a JT deck, and it'll be like, yeah, but it's like, what I need people to understand is that Joker and Thieves for everybody, and I'm going to do my best to have a deck that spans all communities. It's going to appeal to everybody, but like, I'm not going to make any apologies for a deck that is not exactly what collectors would sort of expect, or where the cardists would expect. Like if I come out with something super gilded and really pretty and blah blah blah, like I do want to like give like a little bit of like a sneak peek of something that I am working on. Well, that is coming out for the next month. So on this podcast, guys, you're going to see some like exclusive stuff.
Yeah, we're excited.
Yeah.
So
let's see it.
What do we want to show first? We have some pictures. We have the trailer. And before I even do that, I'm going to remember to drop this right here. This is the preview link, guys, for the upcoming Joker and the Thief playing card deck. So make sure to click that. Go hit the notify me when this launches button.
Because you're gonna want to be there.
Yes.
Okay, we've got $10 early bird specials there. So
nice.
Dude, that's a steal.
I know. So lovely.
That's so dope.
So like tying it back to this conversation is that like Joker and the Thief is producing a lot of some very intricate designs. We're also about to produce something a little more minimal, but within that branded style, we've got that sort of grunginess. We've got that cool vibe to us. So I'm trying to sort of like go a little more experimental. So coming up in September is Wayfarers, which is essentially the spiritual successor to the Joker and the Thief deck.
Nice. Here, I'll pull up the back design for that one here.
Yes. So this is Wayfarers. This is a brand new deck. This took 2 years to produce. This started around Hong Kong Cardistry Con.
Nice.
Probably working on it before then as well. Just a little bit before then. And Wayfarers basically captures that spirit of adventure that we felt in the fall and what we're going to be continuing to sort of put out. So that's Wayfarers there. It's fully custom, 100% custom. Got some cool metallic inks. It's all of the court cards tell a story.
Which I wish that was a little bigger there, but yeah.
All of these sort of court cards have symbolism, like every Joker and a Thief deck, or most Joker and a Thief decks. There is symbolic elements that you can tie a little story together. And this is probably one of my favorite decks I've ever done. It's just so it's freaking awesome. Very, very cool.
Yeah,
Dude, I definitely dig the I dig the colors. I dig the style of it. I like the borderless like faces on the courts. Looks
That's
good,
sort
man.
of a motif that we keep around.
Yeah, I always love that. It just looks so clean.
Yeah, so that's Wayfarers. It's gonna be printed by United States Playing Card Company on Crush, Stock, and Finish, and it's gonna be a good time.
Yeah.
Right.
There's the
Now that's
like that
that's a seal. That's a seal for something else.
So do we want to go to the other one first then?
Okay, so now, let's sort of like span the gap. Joker and a Thief is going to be maybe let's get to this. I wanna sort of show everybody about this on camera, but let's
let's bring him back in.
All right.
We've got a little bit of a video for you guys, just like part of the Kickstarter trailer. It's a little bit of a snippet. So if you want to have we're gonna cue that up, I believe, and that's gonna be pretty cool. So you guys
get for Wayfarers, correct?
Yeah.
This is for Wayfarers. It's coming out on September 18th.
Featuring Sean.
Right around the corner.
Featuring Sean, yes.
Yeah.
Go
Sean who?
Honestly, and it's funny because when Sean came on the show, I told him the first real like professionally done cardistry video I'd seen was his trailer for the OPC Snackers V2. And I like showed it to my girlfriend. I'm like, how awesome is this? So anytime I see one of his videos now, I'm just like, I love Shauna's work. So yeah. I guess let's check this out. I love that, man.
There you go.
That is so sick.
Nice.
No, that's awesome. I'm really excited for this deck in general, but that trailer just looks, I mean, it's great having a friend in Portland who can go out somewhere and, really get into the woods.
I know. It's like, can you get to a forest? He's like, yeah.
That's too funny. That's awesome though, man.
Yeah, looks great.
Yeah, thank you. So that deck is coming out on September 18th at, I believe, 8 a.m. Pacific. What is it? Pacific date time?
Pacific Standard Time.
Yeah, Pacific Standard.
Or Daylight Time. Yeah. Pacific Daylight Time. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Nice.
So that time.
Yeah.
But yeah, on the contrast to Wayfarers is something that we want to sort of target the cardistry community with, and it's something that was supposed to come out on the film that we were going to do in May, and that was supposed to be released around CardistryCon, but we're going to put it out early. So it's a brand new deck, more aimed towards cardists. So I think we had that photo of the seal, and I think let's run through it. So these have been posted on our Instagram, and these seals. So what I'd like to talk about these seals is basically these seals are essentially the bridge between the detailed Joker and a Thief decks and the more minimal cardistry decks. What I want to really put out there is that a Joker and a Thief deck that is a cardistry deck will be as exquisite as the more premium, as the more detailed premium decks. Right. So we've got a completely custom designed seal. We've had all original artwork done for this deck. However, we're taking a more minimal approach. The next photo, I think shows Joker and a Thief. So we have used letterpress techniques for this box, and it's really, really beautiful. It's textured, you can feel it, and as you can see, there's quite a lot of there's been quite indented there. Mm-hmm. And I guess what I will have to show you guys is what the deck actually looks like. Now this hopefully is coming out in the next few months. But this is like the first look of the back design coming out. So I've got a deck here, and this is the back design of Joker and the Thief. So this is not just a simple sort of solid color. The borders are distressed to keep in line with the Joker and the Thief grunginess. Nice. We've got our emblem stamped straight in the middle, and these feel really, really great for cardistry. So the only thing that isn't custom about these is the court cards. But because we're going for a vintage vibe, we've selected Arco court cards.
Yes, good choice.
So yes, so it has that vintage sort of 70s vibe. Nice. And that's sort of what we were going for. So this is, you know what? I'm going to show you guys some more stuff as well.
Why not? Nice. Show what you'd like. Honestly, though, Steve and I love the Arco courts. I think they're so underrated and so underused. Yeah. They're just so good.
On my deck too.
Yeah, they're beautiful, and I thought it would suit this. It would suit this very well, and I just didn't feel like, how are we going to do like a custom court cards for this? It just won't suit. Yeah. So that's what we decided to do. We didn't want to go completely standard, but you know, Arcos are nice. Anyway, I'll show you guys the Ace of Spades. This is our
nice.
I love that.
Established 2015. That's and cool. We had, so essentially what the cool part is we still have a Joker and a Thief card instead of two Jokers. So that's always going to be a motif. But nice. What we had done, we had our artists sort of try to emulate the Arco style court cards, and you'll be able to see them here.
Oh, cool.
I love that. That's so awesome.
So those are cool. The Jokers for the 597s, which is what we're calling these new ones.
Nice.
And they'll be you'll see more of those. Well, there's not much more to see, but you'll see them in more detail in the coming closer to the release date.
Nice.
Now, what made you choose green? Dude, choosing a color is like, oh hard. My god, yeah, it's tough, man. So what made you choose green? Is that one of your favorite colors, or?
It has become one of my favorite colors. I've just noticed I've done 3 green decks in a row, which is not too great that I've done that. However, I feel like it just suited for this design. I was inspired a lot by some motorcycle companies and some vintage sort of artwork, and thought that with the pop of yellow would be really cool. And the cream tuck box, it's not white, it's off-white, it's a cream color. I thought that all together will just look really, really cool.
It's kind of like the plaids, kind of that vintage.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And JT's sort of moving in that direction of having sort of that sort of vintage sort of vibe and that, that cool style, old school cool.
Yeah.
Which I think fits, though. I mean, it's a natural progression from where the decks were before. They were very much a more antique but cool, we'll say, and it's progressing into that vintage. It's almost like an evolution instead of like going back. The cards are actually evolving into a vintage style, which is nice.
Exactly. And it's, I wanted to create a deck that's practical, that I can sort of take out every day and use and just throw around, and that's what the 597s will be for a lot of people, hopefully. And also to get our foot in the door in the cardistry community. Like, a lot of cardists know of Joker and the Thief, but a lot of people have been screaming out for like something a little more minimal.
Right.
So yeah, that's what's coming. Nice. But Wayfarers is the main focus right now. So
so September 18th, yeah?
September 18th will be Wayfarers, yeah. And that's the big one. Again, like, Kickstarter campaigns are just so much work. Like, it's soaked a lot of time, like creating a video, creating all the banners and the head, all the titles. I do want to sort of like ask the audience. So guys, if you're listening, we have a variation of Wayfarers that nobody has seen yet that I would like to show here on Deckin Around. And I want to see what you guys think. Yeah, I know you say do it, but like let's see what everyone thinks. And while I was camping over the weekend, I sort of noticed like, wow, this could work, because the red soil of Australia and the sky, the contrast, really, really worked. But you guys see for yourself and let us know if we should do this or if we should do it as an add-on for the Kickstarter campaign. This will be something interesting. So stand by.
We have technical difficulties here.
Yeah. But yeah, basically Wayfarers is at the moment going to be one edition, but we do want to bring out more variations of Wayfarers.
I'd be down to see that. I think there's a lot of colorways that could look really nice with that design.
Yeah. Did you see that? There's a photo there. It's the blue and
Yeah, Tyler, we're waiting for you, buddy.
I know. I'm trying to. That's not it. Let me see why I can't get it. Why it's not up
God,
there.
I look like I have jaundice.
That's okay.
Thanks for that, Steve.
I look like I do. I said I look.
No,
hard.
it made me laugh. So I appreciate it. That was a genuine thank you. Let me see what we got here.
Yeah. So Wayfarers essentially is going to be the continuation of the original Joker and a Thief deck. It's sort of like a spiritual successor. We needed something after Edition 5 sort of ended the run of the original decks. We needed something to sort of take its place and be the flagship. And that's what Wayfarers will be. I think I've got if not, I've got a prototype here.
So I've got it here, but it's not going to be as pretty an overlay as the rest of them. So let me just upload this real quick and we'll get it in there. For some reason,
we're on the fly here, James.
Yeah, I can make this work real quick if we need to, so it's no big deal. It's gonna like cover our faces, so
that's this is one of the prototypes of Wayfarers,
Nice.
So we've gone ahead. It's basically what you would expect from a Joker and a Thief deck, completely custom, blah blah blah.
All right, we got this one. Here we go.
Oh, dude.
Yes.
I think that looks sick. Yeah.
This is the colorway.
That looks good.
What do you guys think? Like, drop a comment.
You want my honest opinion?
Yes, go ahead.
Well, I'll wait till we get face to face. I feel like I'm hiding behind an image yet.
But yeah, drop some comments in the everyone in the audience. Drop some comments. What are your thoughts on this deck, this colorway, as a variation to the proposed or the in the works Wayfarers V1?
Yeah, would you like to see it as an add-on, or would you like to see it as part of the main campaign? We have time. We can add it, but if not, we might save it. But yeah, that's the blue and orange edition, which would be a limited edition. We wouldn't print.
I like that the orange is kind of like it's not like a primary orange. It's not pumpkin orange. It's more of like a goldish orange.
Come back, side.
It's not like pumpkin orange.
No, come back to
us. All right, yeah. Where are we at? There we go.
Yeah.
I was enjoying looking at the deck.
I missed you. I was like,
it's a good looking deck. I was captivated. Sorry.
It's beautiful. I'm gonna be honest. I like that colorway 100 times better than the other one.
Ooh, that's interesting.
And the reason why is because of the contrast between the two colors.
I could see that.
Yes.
I think I wouldn't do that one as the main one and the other one as an add-on, because I think you're going to get a better response as the teal and the orange as
its own standalone.
Yeah.
A
standalone or as an add-on. I would make that one the add-on. That way, you'd sell more of the original, because I think if you did it the other way, less people are going to go towards that standard brown one.
I'm sort of I agree with you on that. I think that like it would work best as an add-on if we end up hitting a goal and we add a stretch goal or something like that. Nice. We haven't actually. In our entire history, I've never done add-ons. I've never really liked add-on. Oh, we have done add-ons, but not stretch goals. I never really liked them. I just felt like it complicated the campaign. I was like, this is just going to confuse everybody.
Honestly, I'm not a fan of stretch goals either. I look at it this way. Just put the deck in there, let people, because here's what I do. If there's an add-on or a stretch goal, unless the early bird is worth it to jump on the early bird, I won't touch it until a day before the campaign ends, so I don't have to keep going back and forth, managing my pledge, changing all this. It's a pain in the ass. So for me, I would just rather see, look, this is our standard. This is our limited edition. You can get it this way. There's this many. If you want, we're going to have an add-on, maybe 10 days before it closes, where we're going to gild it whatever it may be. Let it all out.
Yeah, exactly. And I've always felt that way as well. You're spot on there, because it's like, well, I don't like the idea of like, well, we'll add a seal if we get to this point. We'll add foil if we get to this point. So no, I just want to put a deck that's got embossing foil and a sexy seal, and that's what it's going to be. So it's up front. Here you go. Buy it, take it or leave it. Like, it's not like,
I mean,
you know,
I look at it this way. It's like,
you know what I mean, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. But to hold some words, design. To hold some words back, yes, exactly.
Yeah,
I think that would be dope with kind of like a blue metallic gilding rather than a gold and a silver, typical gold and silver. Yeah. Stay away from holographic. Well, people love holographic, but
yeah, it's not. Yeah,
it's not on brand.
Yeah,
and it doesn't look good 98% of the time.
I mean, Steve and I have talked about this in the past. The one thing that most people don't do with their gilding, because they already have a color in mind for their gilding and they don't care what color their actual deck is they pick whatever color gilding they want. In reality, you need to pick something that looks good on the deck. And like 9 times out of 10, gilding just doesn't do that these days. And like even sometimes, you know, like Steve said, you see people who are like, oh yeah, well, gold and silver are, you know, traditional. They work with everything. Like no, they don't.
Not particularly, no.
They might work with everything, just color wise, but cohesiveness, they don't complement the deck. So like, I think a really good example of people who are doing gilding right is Riffle Shuffle. They're switching up the colors. They're changing it based on the deck.
Yeah, they match. They color
green,
match it.
Pink.
Well, it makes sense, right?
Yeah. But
I think like in terms of gilding, like maybe one day, depends on the project. If the project really called for it, I'd be like, yeah, okay. But like, I like to think of the decks as like in a practical standpoint. It's like, am I going to use a deck that's gilded? Probably not. And what's the point?
The gilding it is totally 100% for collectors. That's the only reason it's for. And I think that deck, that colorway with a nice teal gilding would look ridiculous.
It would look nice.
It would look so good.
That would, and it would have a very.
Maybe if I do like half a dozen. Maybe half a dozen. Be like, hey guys, do you want to like?
I think 100. I think 150 is like the typical, and I guarantee you'd sell them all.
Yeah. People do jump on the gilding. I mean, as much as we can knock people who don't pick the right colors for gilding and this and that about gilding, you could see someone with a blue deck with, you know, lime green gilding, and that thing would sell out still.
All right, so we have a bunch. Here's a bunch of our answers. People like that one better. Great colors, looks sweet. Do it as a full release. I'm with you, Steve. Agreed, Steve and Matt. Spot on, Steve. Yes, teal and gold will appeal for cardists. The other one will appeal.
Just to make Kyle feel special here too. There you go, Kyle. Gilding makes cards useless. I don't think anyone would argue on that one. I don't
get it trending.
It's too long. It takes too long to type out. I'm already bored of it.
It's like hashtag again. Don't worry about it.
Oh my god! Thank God for auto
gilding makes. I'm done.
Yeah,
I think
no one uses gilding though for the point of like visual appeal, because the second you separate the cards, it's no longer visible for the most part. So
no, that's shitty gilding, bro. Good gilding always looks good. Like I think there's something set. Speaking of gilding, have you seen this, James?
Oh my god.
Isn't that funny? It's the rainbow poop. It's the rainbow poop gilding.
That was so you remember a while ago, Bacopo, I don't know if you remember actually, Bacopo came out with a deck called the Beautiful Deck, which was a Spectrum bicycle deck where all the hardbacks were different colors. Well, they did a V2 release only in China. That's
it's called Gorgeous.
He did it, Gorgeous. There you go. And they did a rainbow gilded version.
Gorgeous.
Cool.
I mean, sure.
Cool. But
the deck itself.
Sorry, no hate, guys, but a little bit on the nose.
No, but it's obviously not something that you're gonna be. You know, it's just something cool. But it goes with the deck.
You know what it does remind me of? You know, like when steel, like stainless steel, oxidizes.
Yeah.
And you got that little
Yeah.
You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of that meme with the unicorn pooping.
Oh yeah. I mean,
Cool.
definitely like. Oh, you could definitely see JT bringing out a deck like that. That's like
definitely on brand.
Yeah.
that's really on brand. Yeah.
Oh my god. So you know what? We're already an hour and 20 in, and I realize we haven't done a sniff for Stu yet. So
Oh man. Let's
while
do it.
we're
Goodness.
so we're slacking a little bit here. But on that note, do you?
I just opened the brand new Robin Hood deck from King's Wild. I'll sniff.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
It's from Expert. So if I grow a tail, don't be mad.
So James,
So
what are you going to be sniffing today?
I'm going to be sniffing the very popular Dystopia playing.
Oh, yeah.
By
Very
Joker
nice.
and the Thief.
Very
Mm.
nice.
Who's Joker and the Thief? Who is that?
It's a cool brand out of Australia.
I mean, are you the actual like only large scale card? Well, not even large scale, but large scale card producer out of Australia?
I think I am. Yeah,
All right.
I think I am. I mean, like, there's another company called Queen Slippers, but that's like very generic. Like in every like Queen Slippers, it's this brand that is based out of Melbourne. It's basically like a very, very standard. It's Australia's bicycle deck.
Okay.
It's in everywhere. But in terms of custom playing cards, Joker and the Thief is like the only main leading the charge, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Guru playing cards is out of Australia.
Oh really? Okay.
Yeah, they're dope. But they're
Sweet.
totally different. Yeah, I like their deck.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, they are
They have the
Anybody
divine.
else?
The
Are there
divine
any
deck,
other
I think.
companies? There's another brand. There's the guys at
There's a couple.
the Burger Stack one. What is it, like the sandwich deck?
Isn't Byworthy's in Australia, isn't he?
Yeah.
Josh?
He's not
Yeah.
necessarily a card. Well, he's an aspiring card producer for the time being.
I mean, he produces cards for people.
Okay.
I
Oh,
think
yeah.
there's 2 decks from him right now
Yeah.
on Kickstarter.
But those are his first 2 that might actually fund, right? Or has he done some in the past?
I have no clue.
We're the OGs. I mean, so
You know what? You guys are the
buy
baddest.
local.
How's
You're
that?
Australian. Buy local.
how about you guys are the baddest? How's that? All right,
Nah.
sniff that baby. Let's see it. Sniff
All right,
it.
hang on. No, you first. You got to show me how it's done.
We all do it different. Don't let me set the trend for you.
Okay. All right. I'm going to. All
You
right.
can't sniff too
This
much.
is a-
You can't sniff too much of Expert at one time.
Yeah, that'll make you pass
No,
out.
you. Yeah, this is a 2017 vintage. This is notes of tire smoke and gasoline.
Dude, that label, that front label is dope.
Oh, terrible! Smells like, oh my god, smells like the wasteland. Terrible. Fire, brimstone, all of the worst things.
Kangaroo dung.
Kangaroo shit as well. That's
That is such a dope deck, though. I feel like that's like I said. I think anytime you ask someone like what their favorite Joker and the Thief deck is, it's either that or Maidens. And I think part of that's I think part of that's always the rarity of it as well. Is like, yeah, you can still find Maidens from time to time. It's like almost impossible to find a Dystopia deck at a reasonable price. So I think people are always like, oh yeah, like that's the coolest deck I've ever seen from Joker and the Thief.
it is badass though.
It is a badass deck.
I have a question. Here's my daily. I have a question.
There you go.
Okay.
So, how many Dystopia decks do you have left in your vault?
In my vault,
Yep.
man, I have maybe, and I shit you not, I have like maybe 9
Oh, well.
Damn.
decks. I have not got any. I only recently started saving.
So you have 7.
I think 9. Oh, 7. Oh yeah.
Wait.
Of course. Yeah.
So you have 7.
Yes, I've just done the shipping labels actually.
Well, and like, so do you you don't keep a lot on hand then of your own decks other than maybe
I do
you know,
I do now.
Okay.
Yeah, I save like maybe half a gross for myself.
Okay.
Each deck.
I mean, I'm assuming your
I should-
decks are your dailies as well. Like that's what you're using most days when you're playing around with the deck.
To be honest with you, I don't like to use a lot of my own cards a lot of the time. That's probably why I developed this one, is because it's something that I would use every
Okay.
single day. It's not so much. It's not that I don't like my own designs. I love my own designs, obviously. It's more so that you're working so much with that design that you see it every single day that it's refreshing to use somebody else's cards. So like, I will probably only touch like art of play stuff, but you know, I'm using Fultons and stuff like that. So I'm using different stuff. Just to mix it up, keeps you fresh. I don't know, there's something about it. It's like if you go a different way into town or whatever, just gotta keep it fresh, mate.
Yeah.
You know? Like,
so
you just gotta switch it up.
What do you think? I kind of have maybe it's a controversial question, maybe it's not. I've been known to be controversial at times, but
me too.
What do you think of prices for cardistry decks nowadays? I think. I mean, I say nowadays.
Hot topic. This is gonna be a good one.
I haven't been around for a long time, but even since I've been around for like a year, just over a year, and I've noticed a big difference in pricing for cardistry decks. And I feel a lot of the price markup in standard decks is coming. Even these crazy limited deals or limited editions, whether it's 17 decks or a new tuck box for $68, or I feel like all of these companies are all cardistry companies. How do you honestly, what do you think?
How do I feel about it?
How do you feel about it? And
well,
from someone who has good prices on decks that have actual more involved, whether it's letterpress, whether it's foil, whether it's seals, you put more into it and you still have them at $10 for early bird or $15 for purchasing.
Well, okay, so the way I feel like it's like a multi-dimensional sort of topic / issue / my opinion on it. I guess coming from a creator standpoint, coming from a manufacturer's standpoint, the production of playing cards is getting a lot more expensive. It is going up in price depending on what you're doing, depending on your methods of the way that you're printing. So some people think that you can print at USPC and and then it's done all at the factory. That's not the case with the Joker and the Thief decks. They're printed at USPC. The boxes are made somewhere else, and they're assembled at another facility, and the seals are done somewhere else completely. So the prices can sort of hike. It depends. It really depends. Like if you're looking from a collector's standpoint, and it's like, well, why are they charging XY dollars for this particular deck, and you don't get the design, you don't understand why it's significant in the cardistry community, it's very, very easy to criticize. I mean, I don't know, like it's nice to be able to not pay too much for a deck of playing cards, I guess. I think $15 is like around the sweet spot. Like I think that's a fair for the amount of it's a fair price for the amount of work that goes into some decks.
Yeah.
But like an example you said was like the $65. What was it? Was it a cherries deck?
No. That's
I'll get into that one
after. It was a dealer's grip deck. That was the ambient deck, right? Or ambient? Was it ambient?
Or
it was
art or gradient or something like that.
No. It was. No, it was the dealer's grip
the
ambient deck, I think it was. They came out with a regular version that had I think a blue tuck or a like beige tuck, and then they came out with a new one that I don't know how many they made, but it was $68 and it was a different tuck, basically. And it was limited, and they charged $68 for it.
Yeah, I think how many of those were made?
Does anybody know? I mean, I'm sure we can find out. Let me see.
Oh, that's okay. I mean, regardless,
but it was the same. It was the same deck inside. It was just a different
same deck inside, different tuck.
Yep. So
yeah.
There was only 52.
There's only 52 of them.
So 52.
Okay. Well, I mean, if you're doing a different sort of color paper, maybe it could justify a price increase. Look, if it's a special edition, yeah, a little bit of a price increase, fine. You wouldn't catch me for dead, charging that much. But,
their original one was how much was it? Their original one was $18, and the other one was $68.
I don't think $18 is out of the scope of reasonable of a reasonable price to pay for a really nice deck of playing cards. I don't think I'd be charging $68 for a tuck variation, but the thing is like it comes down to this. It's like people will do what they're doing. They're going to charge what they're going to charge, and if you like it, then pay the price. If you don't like it, don't pay the price and just move on. It's like that's like a lot. That applies to a lot of different things in life. It's like
For sure.
It's just like, well, if that sort of thing, if you don't agree with that sort of thing, it's like, okay, get on with it. That's really sort of the way I sort of see it. It's like, okay, well, that might not align with your beliefs. You don't have a gun to your head to support it.
Yeah.
So don't. And I think some people like diehard fans for like the other thing you got to consider as well is like these people in the cardistry community, and I will speak highly of them, is because these people are pioneers of this art form. Like they are contributing to the perpetuation of the community. Their art that they spend, I'm sure, countless hours on perfecting new moves and new ideas and putting it out there into the community is super important for making sure that the cardistry community survives and thrives and moves forward and progresses and becomes a lot more innovative. If they charge $18 for a cardistry deck, well, then I think that's justified based on the amount of work they put in behind the scenes for their artwork and for the community as a whole. I think that's super important to people outside the cardistry realm to sort of understand why these prices are coming in. And $18 is not that. It's not that egregious. It's not that bad, really.
Yeah, I definitely think that's the high end price for a standard deck. That's like a high end price for a deck that costs, let's be honest, $4 to make.
Yeah, I actually just saw a comment in the chat whether it's status and well executed capitalism. They know their market, and yet they don't innovate with the design. Well, yeah, well executed capitalism because it's business. And they built an audience off their hard work. And the designs are not necessarily like an innovative thing. I mean, that's subjective, whether it's innovative or not. Like the Verts have got some innovative designs that really accentuate cardistry. But, like people like Anyone Worldwide or Dealer Script that are bringing out these decks, like they're good quality decks. Oftentimes they have boxes that aren't produced by the USPCC. And like their art form, the way that they put out their cardistry, like the moves that they work on, the things that they do for the community, the inspiration that they give to people is more so the brand. I would stop thinking so much it's the decks is the business. It's more the cardistry is the business. The reason that those decks sell is because they excel at cardistry, and that's the thing, Yeah,
like, I think it's just like. It's just like any community, right? It's like you have your, there's people that do inspire the community, that do bring new creative endeavors into the community, and that's great. And the way I look at it is that has nothing to do with the price for their cards. I think the price of their cards is how much you charge for cards. You can't pay. I don't want to pay $38 because they inspire the community when in turn, and this is just me, obviously. I'm not a fan of their decks at all, but I think it's just like artwork, right? It's like if you create an original, right? Mm-hmm. and it took you 20 hours. You're not gonna charge what it took to create a copy of that original, which is just printing off pieces of art, like copies of it. So
but that's not necessarily true in the terms of like screen printing, and just like people who create posters like Shepherd Fairy and Obey Giant, like they produce these particular artworks, and there's a limited run of 52, artwork prints. So like they are copies, but like they're going to charge a premium price. How much is
their original painting cost? That's what I'm saying. Matter? No. So when you create an original piece of artwork, like Monet or whoever it is, that original piece of artwork took you 30 hours, 80 hours, 100 hours, whatever it is.
Right.
That piece of artwork is what you're basing your price on. You're not going to take that 100 hours and base it on this copy, which is why Shepard's Ferry original artwork is thousands and thousands.
Yeah.
Whereas his copies are $100, $200, whatever it is. I don't know what they might even be left, but probably $30 or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but it's a different game. Like with playing cards, it's like how do you sort of apply that to playing cards? It's like there's a design and like there's a print run, and that's a certain amount of decks. You can't have like an original. It's not like unless you're like putting out like the actual art itself, like you can't.
I just said that like that scenario.
As an example.
Yeah. I only said that scenario because it's like I'm buying their cards. I'm not buying the cards for like I don't want to pay the price for the cards because they've contributed cool moves to cardistry. I just want to buy their cards, But again, they have their like following and the people that really love their stuff, and that's the cool thing about all these different types. Yeah, all the different types of designs and stuff like that. I think what takes a company to the next level, for instance, like you, I'll message you and you'll respond.
Right. Okay.
Whereas some of these other brands don't even take a second to even respond to you, and that to me isn't worth $18. I think that's where the brand to me shows that they care about the community. They'll take a minute to respond and say, "Yo, whatever," or customer service. If I get if I pay $25 a deck and I get 4 of them and 4 of them come in damaged, and I respond to you and say, "Look, these came damaged. Is there anything you can do?" And they say no, like I don't feel like that's a big enough damage. That to me says that they don't really care about their customers.
Yeah, no, fair enough. And I honestly and again, part of good business is good customer service. And I think also like running an effective brand is also like, responding to people and actually being accessible. And I found that was something that was lacking in particular areas in communities and businesses. And I thought, well, like I'm a pretty sociable guy and like I'm pretty approachable and I'm not really afraid of people. So like, I'm happy to have a chat with you,
Yeah, dude, I give you so much credit for that.
Thank you. I mean, it'll get to the point where like eventually there'll be so many comments and there'll be so many messages that one person might not be able to, like me, will be able to get to that. But while I am still small, I still want to have that personable sort of touch to the brand. And I think that's important.
But have somebody respond. If you're that big, have somebody respond.
Yeah.
I think it's important. Like even like, especially through email, particularly. Email should definitely be responded to. And, sometimes you miss it. Sometimes, like as a one person team, guys, like if you're watching, like sometimes I'm out like doing live stuff. So if I take like a day extra to get back to you, like I'm very sorry, but it is kind of hard. But you get there.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It says a lot about your brand that you actually take time to, to respond and it says a lot about you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah. I mean,
Very
I think,
nice.
Like Steve was saying, a lot of times we see that, not even to say big players, any players in the community can have this issue where, you're either in it for the community or you're in it to kind of make money off the community. And when people are really in it for the community, that personal touch to it does add, and that comes through because you do want to be part of the community. You want to better the community. Yes, it's a business. You're also in it to make money, but you can make money and better the community. And I think that's,
absolutely. But I would also say that like, from being in these social circles in the cardistry community, I've got to say that like everybody cares. Like everybody cares about the community. Everybody loves cardistry. It's like this brotherhood, this community. Like everybody really, really does care. Like, and that extends like also to, it's not just the cardistry community that this sort of thing affects. It's also like the collectors community and things like that. People are very like communicative. There comes a point like, you take suggestions about where the brand should go, but like ultimately the decision lies with you. And I always follow my gut instinct. What the crowds want might not necessarily be what they actually want. So that's also something to keep in mind.
Well, and I
Yeah,
think
no, for sure.
and just because they want something doesn't mean that what you give them they'll like less. They might like more what you come out with than what they originally thought. So
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, and at the end of the day,
and let's be honest, there's still some people who listen to R. Kelly.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
no matter what you put out, there's some of your fans are still gonna buy it, whether it's trash or not.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I guess so. I would look. It depends. Like this, it's again, like vote with your wallet.
Yeah, for sure.
No,
for
and
sure.
I agree. I definitely agree there.
Yeah.
I think it's just this like. I think this is like sort of like. I don't know. Is it tribalism? Is it this sort of like thing where it's like like everybody's sort of looking at somebody else is like somebody's looking at the cardistry decks and they're like, well, these cardistry decks, it's not very detailed. It's not great. I'm on the collectors camp, so I think that's wrong. Like, I feel like there are a lot of collectors out there that are just like, that is automatically shit because there's a dot on it. And it's like, no, well, if you actually do some cool cardistry with it, it actually has this weight to it, that design element. Like for the dots, anyone worldwide, I love that deck. I think that's really cool. But even though it's just a dot, the weight of that particular design element influences the way that the flourishes look. So like, I think people can be overly critical automatically of people's decisions. And again, that's why I said like with this, I'm like, oh Jesus, I think some collectors might get upset with like not doing core cards or it's going to be basic, but like, that's what I want to do. And again, vote with your wallet. You don't have to like it, but stick around for maybe some of our more intricate designs,
Yeah, and I think here's the funny thing. It's like I've used this analogy before in the climbing community. You have your boulders, you have your rope climbers, you have your sport climbers. I mean, your traditional climbers, and you have your ice climbers.
Yeah.
Usually, they're all climbing apart from each other. They're not like intermingling. You have your traditional climbers who are like, "Oh, bouldering's lame," or stuff like that. And it's kind of the same thing in the card community. You have your collectors that, and most card collectors, like people who collect cards, don't collect anyone, right? They do collect Fontaines just because Fontaines is such a big name and it has such a big collector's spirit, I guess you can call it. But most card collectors, don't collect Fontaine. They don't collect dealers. They don't collect the cardistry decks other than Fontaine, But I will say one thing. I'm not a fan of anyone's business, right? I'm not a fan of how they do that stuff. But when it comes to hip designs, they're really good. Excluding their flag decks. The flag decks are something else. But I think they're the one I like the best is by far the dots. I think design wise, it's really hip. It's a hipster deck, and it's influenced
by streetwear. And that's
it's cool. In the design world, it's a brilliant design, when it comes down to it. The other stuff, a little different, but their stuff is hip. And people who are collecting cards don't understand that. And I think it's more, their anyone logo, just the straight anyone logo is probably inspired by Supreme or, stuff like that. And it's not built for the card community, so to speak, the collectors. It's
absolutely. It's not for them.
Yeah. And that's the thing. There really is a deck for everyone. And I think that's the one thing that kills me is people
these cardistry brands, as far as I'm concerned, they're tunnel vision on like what it's for. It's 100%. This is what we do. It's not like
100%.
I think Orbit is different because Orbit's like us in a way that it appeals to almost everybody.
Yeah.
100%. And
big fan of that.
The cool thing about the Wayfarers it has that tally-ho-esque circle in the middle,
Yeah.
Like the Wayfarers deck. I think that's going to look really cool, doing cardistry with. But I think, you're always going to have your outliers, your orbits and stuff like that magicians will use as well. And so
I wouldn't even say it's an outlier, though. I think Chris specifically targets the wider market because he has a background in magic, because he's involved in cardistry, and because he knows that collectors prefer a more, visually appealing deck. I think he specifically I think his market is the wider market more so than
that's what I mean by outlier. Like he's one that hits all of those areas where,
Yeah.
like yourself, you do the same thing. You know, Chris hasn't done
Mm.
a limited, like a crazy tuck yet, but I think we talked to him and he said he's got something in the works with that, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, for the V8s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I don't know if he was going to do it on V8s or what. I don't remember, but he said he was going to do like a limited edition type collector's deck, maybe, or something. I might be confusing one of our other guests.
For example, it's like with you know, with the collector community, it's like, well, okay, I've been getting a ridiculous amount of requests for Dystopia that I'm now starting to think that it would be stupid not to bring it back.
Totally.
But either improve it or like, there's some things that I would definitely do to this deck to improve it. You know, I would give it embossing because there's actually no embossing on this deck. Like I would do a few things to improve this design. But I you know, would people get upset with that? Like we said, it's like the end of Dystopia, but like not many people had the chance to get it. So like, do we bring it back? Do we let it stay? Like,
so
you know,
and
like,
the collecting side of it, when you put it out, did it have a limited number on it?
Oh, what, Dystopia?
Yeah.
No. Like we just said, we're probably not going to reprint it.
Okay, then I wouldn't print the same thing.
Yeah, if you're gonna change things about it though,
I wouldn't bring it back. I wouldn't bring it back for that reason. Change it up.
Well, I mean, if it came out with like some embossing and like the deck became like significantly like sexier, you know, and we did a limited run, it's like, okay, this is like, because it came out at a time when hardly anybody knew what Joker and the Thief was.
Yeah.
So, you know, so like a lot of people, obviously, like the reason I'm getting so many requests is because people, you know, have jumped on board and have missed out on previous releases.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think once you change it, even if you change like a tone of the color on the back and it's a version 2, then people will have they'll have the access to that deck, not the original one, because you know that's the whole allure of collecting. You know, you don't want to come out with the deck that, you know, it's kind of like in the jiu-jitsu community. It's there's this company, it's a big company. It's kind of like a Supreme of jiu-jitsu clothes, and basically, so they have a jiu-jitsu uniform that was only released in Japan, and it was like this big sought-after jiu-jitsu uniform, and retail is like 150, but on the black market, I guess you can say the black market, it was like $1,200, right? So everybody who got one, you know, paid, you know, if they got one in Japan, they had their friends get it, or, you know, how they do in-person drops, you know, was super excited. The thing is 2 years later, they reprinted it and came out with the same thing. So like, it literally was kind of the downfall of their company, because it's like, you know, they're still in the company, in the business, but they're not sought after like they were when they came out with all these exclusive stuff, because they just started reprinting older uniforms. So people are like,
See, I think it depends on the story you tell behind it. I think if you come out with Dystopia V2, where you're very upfront about what's changed, you wanted to bring back, why you wanted to bring it back, because you felt that the collector community at the time was small and there's so much more opportunity for people to get into it. And so what you did is you reevaluated the look at the time and really tweaked it like that. I don't think you'd have people who are up in arms, as long as you're not as long as you actually make the distinction of say, you know, this is different from the original Dystopia because of XYZ. That's why this is Dystopia V2.
Yeah. I guess, and you know what, I guess I've already sort of done that test, because just thinking back, like that there is the original Joker and the Thief deck.
Yeah.
You know, and then this is the second run of that was much improved, but could still be improved further. Like, I don't think necessarily like people should get up and up. Again, vote with your wallet. I don't care. It's like, if I go and reprint this one, but I would go and reprint these with the embossing that edition 5 had.
Yeah.
You know,
which that was great. Yeah.
Can you please do a silver foil one with that blue?
Nope.
on the back of the cards. Oh my god, it looks so sick.
No, it would look cool, but I don't think that would ever happen. Slim, fat chance.
Oh my god.
But yeah, I think that's fine. I mean, I would probably consider redoing Dystopia, but in a different way. Like, the iterations of the Joker and the Thief decks are really interesting to see where it's come from, like from start, middle, and finish. Let me see if I can line this up for you. You know, like from start, middle, and finish. Like the start was pretty like garbage, really, the way it was printed, and then this was good, but edition 5 is like the culmination of it all.
Yeah.
It's got the embossing. It feels good. I feel like all of these like Joker and the Thief decks need that embossing now. So if they come back, it's like, well, don't be upset. It's just they've been improved upon.
Yeah. And I think that's the way you sell it too. It's not, I think where at least from the collector community comes in is people are concerned about that. Did I overpay for something? Did I lose that collector value? But if you come into it saying, listen, this is not a reprint. I'm not cheapening the brand or the deck that you have.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm giving you an opportunity to own a new and improved one. I mean, we've seen it a lot recently with Jackson Robinson's deck, the King's Wild decks. He's coming out with a whole bunch of variations and reprints of his original decks that I'm sure people originally paid a lot of money for and thought they would never be printed again. And a few people are up in arms. Those people are A, probably still buying them, but B, the mass amount of people behind it are really okay with it because they want the decks,
Yeah, she's also upgrading them, like giving them different ink. He's making them foil when they weren't before, or changing the top box. So he is making changes.
Yeah, and that's what you have to do.
Them, but they are.
Yes, I think so too. There has to be a differentiating factor there.
Yeah.
And there are some interesting comments going on, like saying, like, there are unlimited, certain things. If it's not a limited run, and that's like okay to sort of bring those things back. Like, for example, if I brought back edition 5, I think that would kind of be a little bit silly to do that because it was advertised as a limited edition.
Yeah, I look at it this way. You know what? You could be a fucking politician and find your way around words to make something work. If you, and I'm not saying you, I'm just replying to that comment. Say, what's limited mean? Like, you can get as fine detailed as you want and kind of find a loophole in some text, and or you can just be a stand-up person, and if you say something's limited, it's fucking limited. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and fair enough.
Yeah,
that makes sense. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah,
it's just very logical, and it just makes perfect sense.
That's what it comes down to. It's like either be a politician or be a good dude.
That's it. You'd rather just be a good dude, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's it. Like, Joker and Thief's badass, but we're good.
Exactly.
We're badass people, but we're good.
Do we have any badass questions?
I have a Kyle question, and I have like 5 Stu questions, which I want to know the answer to all of them because I feel like they're Australian specific. So we'll start with a Kyle question because I don't know what this one is. Kyle, I'll give you I'm gonna start scoring the Kyle questions. I'll give you a 6.5 out of 10 on this one. Do caterpillars know that they're going to be butterflies, or do they build the cocoon not knowing what will happen?
Hang on. Wait, what?
I forgot to preface this for you too. So Kyle just asked random questions, like very strange questions. We had one
cool.
and we had one at a point in time where it was like, if you had to pick an animal to be your head and an animal to be your lower half, what would you pick? The guest on that show was James Kiernan from the Card Inn. He picked a giraffe head and a tortoise body. So that was an interesting one. But so Kyle's question.
He made a meme the next day with a tortoise body and a giraffe head,
which is interesting.
I love this community.
I know. It's a great community. But so the question here is, do caterpillars know that they're going to be butterflies, or do they build the cocoon not knowing what will happen?
Where the hell does he get these questions?
I don't know.
I have a deeply, deeply philosophical question. Answer.
I'm ready for this.
It's what is knowing and what is consciousness? Would you consider a caterpillar to actually be conscious, or is it operating on instinct? I would say it's operating on instinct because it is not completely sentient. So, obviously, Kyle.
There you go.
You know what?
Hit me with another one. I want to give us his like closest 10 A grade A plus question.
Kyle, if you can figure out like a 9 out of 10 Kyle question and drop in the chat, I'll give you 2 questions this episode. I think that's fair. In the interim, we'll go through.
Well done, James. Well done.
Yeah, we'll go through some stew questions while you're at it. Where are we at here? Starting.
Does the butterfly know it used to be a caterpillar? That's what Ronald just said.
That's a good question. I don't know.
What about transforming? In the moment of transformation, does it realize? I don't think it realizes that it's called a butterfly. I just realize it's transforming and doing its thing.
I think it's not aware enough to understand.
I'll agree. I think it's more instinct than anything. And also, from a memory point of view, like I think they go through like the chrysalis period long enough that their memory span probably starts fresh to some extent, you know? Like you think of even
they
even
have memories? I don't know.
We don't fucking know. We're fucking you.
You think about like things like fish and all that.
I'm trying to figure out what I used to be and what I'm gonna become. I'm already too occupied.
Yeah, well, that's because they always say fish. They always say fish has like a memory of what 3 seconds or something.
Yeah, but that's not true. Goldfish actually have a memory of like 3 months. Yeah, they can remember things up to 3 months.
Have you ever had fish? Yeah, those fuckers.
Yeah, but who cares? It's a goldfish.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Feed that thing to a piranha, will you?
So, what's the most radical Australian stereotype you've heard from a non-Australian?
Ooh, like what? Like a okay,
like
a little bit of context to the question.
Yeah.
So, like somebody, like, is it just like a belief system of somebody from outside of Australia has about Australians?
Yeah.
Oh, I'll tell you one thing about Australia that everybody gets wrong is the idea that animals are deadly here is disproportionate to the reality.
Okay.
And the fact that, so people think there's just the snakes everywhere. You're going to get your leg bitten off by a great white shark. Your face will be ripped off by a crocodile, and you'll be buried underneath a river by it so it can eat you later. There's spiders everywhere.
Kangaroo will beat the shit out of you.
Oh yeah, and they can do all these things.
Right.
Like, don't get me wrong. Like that can and might happen. However, the thing about Australia is, and I have this argument with Americans all the time. It's just like, I tell them, they're like, man, you got like crocodiles and snakes and stuff. I'm like, but I know where they fucking are. I know where they are. Like, I know if I go next to that river, you probably shouldn't do that, James, because you might get eaten. So don't go there. So that. But Americans you guys have.
You know what, James?
Wolves and bears and coyotes and mountain lions and all that kind of rattlesnakes and that sort of shit.
You know what? Like we have crocodiles too and snakes.
No, you don't. You have alligators. Alligators are little bitches.
That is true.
No, a saltwater crocodile will destroy an alligator. Don't even.
Yeah, I mean that's 2 different. Yeah, that's
No, that's like an animal to an animal. We're talking that like an animal to a human.
An alligator. An alligator you can walk up to, be like, "Hey man, how you doing?" A saltwater crocodile would rip your guts.
Yeah,
out
they're like hyper aggressive.
Oh yeah, but I just think So our animals aren't as dangerous. Like it's not as dangerous as it seems. It can be if you do the wrong thing, but it's not like we've got a freaking grizzly bear walking around in our forest.
Yeah,
Jesus, guys.
So that leads me to Stu's next question, which I absolutely love because I think it's the perfect follow-up to this. And again, I'll preface it with the fact that Stu is Australian, so I'm assuming this is just kind of a joke. He says, when was the last time you fought a kangaroo?
Last week. Fucking bastard.
Dude.
Is that what you made your tuck boxes out of? Kangaroo fur?
Oh yeah, I'm gonna do for an April Fool's joke one day, a really just a controversial deck where it's made out of kangaroo hide and it's got elephant ivory tusks in it embedded, it's powdered or something like that. I'm gonna do just a politically incorrect deck.
Oh my god. And he also wanted to know what your honest thoughts on Vegemite were.
Oh,
it's good. I like Vegemite's delicious. I love it. A little bit of a thin veneer on toast and butter in the morning.
I actually saw a video the other day where it was why Americans think Vegemite is gross, and it's someone and they slather Vegemite all over a piece
Yeah,
of
it's like,
And-
why are
yeah.
you doing that for, you Wally?
Yeah,
Why
and
don't
then
you
it
just have,
goes
like, a
like
little
what you
bit?
really do when you put like a really, really thin layer on, and we're Americans. We
Yeah.
overdo everything.
Still not good.
I've never had it, honestly, so I'll try anything once.
It's very look, it's very salty. It's an acquired taste, I would say. But we grew up eating it. It's what makes us strong.
There you go.
It's like spam. It's like spam.
I mean, I like
no,
spam.
Spam is a different thing. You
I'll
can take
eat
your
spam.
spam.
No, I'll eat
it's
spam. I
not-
don't care.
Oh,
That's not
you
hot.
eat spam?
It's not, dude. It's not bad.
Like
It's pork shoulder.
Oh.
Who cares?
It falls out of a can and
gross.
oh Jesus.
So does like
bro.
tuna fish and all that
Tyler,
shit.
I'm sorry.
Whatever.
It's totally different.
I'm sorry to call you out on that, Tyler, but your habits are disgusting.
Listen. I do not eat spam regularly. I will tell you flat out. No, I do not eat spam
fair
regularly.
enough. Good.
But I've eaten spam, and if I had to, I would eat spam again. Like it's not.
Look,
like,
if I had to,
yeah.
eat it,
Yeah.
yes, I would eat it. But
but it's not like my food of choice by any means. Yeah.
if you've got a gun to my head, I'll eat 3 cans of spam. Like like.
This coming from someone who just ordered crickets a couple weeks ago and ate them.
And I ate them. Yeah.
Yeah, I bet they'd be all right.
They weren't bad. They had a weird aftertaste, but like they weren't bad.
A bit bitter.
Yeah, a little bit, and that's really what it was. It was like a weird bitter tang, and I didn't like. It wasn't bad. Again, I ate them all, but like, I wouldn't like go out and be like, "Yeah, let me go have crickets for lunch today." So
yeah,
I also
a little bit of like sauce. That'd be I reckon it'd be all right. It'd be like a chip.
Yeah, and really, that's what it is. It almost tastes like a. The closest thing I could equate it to actually is more like a popcorn. Like it has a little bit of like a crunch to it, but it's not that like satisfying as a chip. The funny thing is though, like you eat a bag like this big and it's 40 calories. So like you need to eat a lot of them to survive.
I bet.
Nah.
I draw the line at tarantula. So
yeah.
Dylan, I'd try it.
Yeah, I'd try it. I'm not gonna like buy them for the hell of it. If someone
I like eating weird things. I like eating weird things and new things.
As do I.
There's some stuff I won't tell you. Like, you know those duck eggs that are like fermented?
Is that? Yeah. Balut.
It's like a Southeast Asian thing.
Yeah, balut, where it's like the partially formed duck, and then they. Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Yeah, that's something nasty.
It's a gestated egg that they let get to a certain stage, and then they like cook it and eat it.
What's it called? What's it called?
I think it's Baluk, Baluk, maybe.
Baluk.
Yeah. I'll try a lot of things, but that will not be one.
Oh God, no.
Oh, Balut, Balut, Balut.
Hell no.
But maybe I might even like give it a go. Just like
I'd try it, but I wouldn't like.
Maybe.
Again, probably wouldn't be part of my regular meal. That's I think the thing.
What's the point? What's the point of trying it? I'm not going to eat it.
Why wouldn't
because
you? Why
it
not?
because it makes me brave.
Nah. Well, and also you never know.
You know what makes me brave? Driving a scooter in Thailand, that makes me brave.
There you go.
Yeah,
dude, I don't know. Food I tried all once.
Sparring with my jiu-jitsu instructor makes me brave. I'll stay away from the egg thing.
Well, I think you're not as brave.
Whatever. You know what? When we're fighting zombies and you're eating an egg and I'm doing jujitsu, then we'll talk.
All right. Well, fair enough. Okay.
But
we're all very brave, Steve. We're all very very manly, very strong.
You know what? I am not that brave to try the egg. How's that? I'm not brave in that department. How's that?
I mean, it's not something I'm going to enjoy.
Yeah.
You never know.
Here's the other thing I'll be honest about with weird foods like that are to an extreme. There's probably only one food I wouldn't, maybe two foods I wouldn't eat, like hands down probably would not eat. One of them is that like rotting shark that they do in like Scandinavia.
What?
I'd give it a go.
Dude, like I just can't imagine eating meat that's been buried for like 3 months and is literally rotting. Like to me that's a little too far.
I'd still try it just for the experience. I've got a fun story to tell now.
That's probably one of the things I wouldn't, but the other one would be like Rocky Mountain oysters, which like like bull testicles.
Oh, Rocky Beach.
Yeah.
Took me a minute. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I'd definitely try testicle for sure.
I don't know. Like that's another one that I'm just like, meh.
I'd try it.
He's like, give me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dawn says lutefisk. Yeah, that's the rotting shark one. I'm just not about that life. So
I before I even lose this, did you see Dilly's question?
that was actually a really good question. I did see it. Hold on, let me.
Yeah,
in the
ask
wide,
that.
yeah, and then we'll get to Kyle's other question. In the wide world of card makers, what makes Joker and the Thief unique?
Well,
nice. That's a good question.
We're more consistently awesome than anybody else, so that's one thing.
And they're braver than anyone else.
Yeah, and we're braver than anybody else. I went to Nepal and spewed my guts out, so like there you go. No, but like in terms of like design and stuff, like it's always very unique. We have a consistent through line. We have a consistent standard of quality, which you don't really see with a lot of indie sort of designers, like one-person teams. What else? I mean, we fit sort of in this gap of like this cool badass sort of vibe, and we sort of span communities. I guess we're quite unique in terms of like our image.
Yeah.
We've got like a fun element. We've got like a really professional element. We've also got like a really like badass gritty vibe. And I think it's just a different sort of style that makes us super unique. But we have little touches here and there that make us better than a lot of others. There's like, our perforated seals, our quality, crush, stock, and finish. Our boxes are made by a letterpress studio. Like a lot of people are doing what we're doing, but I feel like we're the most consistent, one of the most consistent sort of indie brands. So I mean, yeah, and also I feel like we're a lot more communicative and a little more in touch with the community, as we were talking about before. But yeah,
nice.
I think that's a good question, though. It makes me think about like, what does make me unique?
Yeah, no, and I definitely think you have a lot of things that go to it. I mean, your art alone, I think, is unique because there's such a hand-drawn design to it that you don't see in a lot of cards. I think a lot of cards,
distressed,
yeah, like a lot of cards try to be perfect, and I think yours, while they, the design obviously is meticulously thought out and put together, it does have that like you said, distressed or like that kind of like raw artistic to it.
Yeah,
and also like,
go ahead.
Yeah, like it's story wise as well. Like a lot of our court cards will invoke a sort of story that is built in through the symbolism. So there's not a lot of decks out there that will do that. Like we intentionally put certain elements of symbolism in our court cards that you can actually sort of follow a through line through the 12 court cards and be like, well, maybe this means this, and like this could mean that, and this represents that. And we often do, like with Seafarers, there's like each of the court cards have a sort of story to tell of their own. And like in terms of Wayfarers, for example, like the spades are all representative of the sky. Like it's all elemental, right? We've got a certain set of court cards that represent the sea and overland, the overland aspect of the earth. And then another one is like the journey beyond, which is, I believe, the hearts are representing our journey beyond this world, which is still tying into that travel theme of Wayfarers. So we do that differently, and also our designs are killer. So
absolutely agree on that last point there. So, and I think this might be a hard question. Maybe not. Maybe you do know your favorite. What is your favorite deck that you've put out?
At the moment, it is Edition 5.
Okay.
Yes.
Edition 5 is my favorite so far. Wayfarers might take its place, but Edition 5 is definitely my favorite because it means more to me than most of the others. Like that and the original blue deck. The original blue means a lot, but the Edition 5 means something special because it's a bookend, and like my life changed in a huge and dramatic way because of that series of cards. And to end it on my favorite number, which is 5, my lucky number 5, and to end it at 5 decks, and it came out after 5 years, and that's the end of it. That to me is really special. It's the best of all of them.
It's awesome.
And to me that's why it's super special. Like I'd be framing
That's
uncut
cool.
sheets of that deck, and I love all of them, but as a package, Edition 5 wins, hands down.
That's
Nice.
cool. Now, what about your favorite deck of cards that isn't Joker and the Thief?
Oh no, that's hard to say. Actually, I do have a couple that have a soft spot. I think one of my favorite decks that I've never actually owned is David Blaine's Split Spade Lions. One of my favorite designs ever. I love Dan and Dave's Smoke and Mirrors, and I also love the work of Brad Fulton.
Okay.
And I think it would be hard to pinpoint because it shifts in taste. It's like, what do I like to wear? It's like, what deck do I want to sort of bring out?
Yeah.
What sort of deck do I want to take with me during the day? But yeah, anything like Smoke and Mirrors, definitely, and David Blaine's Split Spade Lions is some of my favorite decks, hands down, ever.
Nice.
Now,
Very nice.
you can collaborate with one designer. Who would that designer be?
One designer? Oh, God. Now, is this like a company or is this like an actual designer?
Could be either.
Either or. In the card community,
Okay, so artistically, I can answer artistically for sure.
Yep.
I think artistically, I would love to collaborate with the Young Jerks who work with Deus Ex Machina. I think they're awesome. I'd love to work with them. It's not. I think that would be great. I want to collaborate with a lot of people, but I think their artwork is conducive to the brand, and it's where I'm naturally heading as well. So,
Right.
In terms of other playing card companies, I would love to see. I'd love to do something with Dan and Dave one day. That'd be a bit of a dream, but also like something with Orbit, I think would work well as well. But whatever happens, happens. I'm not like chasing anything. It's like I'm focused on like building the brand out before collaborating with anyone. And if the opportunity to collaborate with somebody like sort of crops up, definitely like take it.
Nice.
Depending on the project. So I think it could be cool. It could be a really we've got a unique style that could bring a lot to other brands, and other brands sort of things that could bring a lot to us. So
Yeah,
absolutely.
I'd like to see more people collaborating in the COD community, like these these big names. It's in every community, whether it's the sneaker community, whether it's the clothing community, whether it's the COD community. I see a lot of these companies, these exclusive companies, collaborating with companies outside, which is great for the brand to get it bigger because it, brings in more eyes. But I'd like to see more collaboration between the card community. Like, how dope would it be to be like Fontaine and Anyone? How dope would it be to be like Orbit and J&T, or just like stuff like that. That would be great for the community.
I think it would be great for the community. I think it'd be a lot of fun. There's a lot. Sort of like seeing what the combinations of those decks would look like. What would the merging of those two brands sort of be?
It'd be cool.
That would definitely be interesting to see.
There's definitely a lot that I could see that'd be like, ooh, that would be interesting. Like a JT and Fulton's deck collaboration would be very interesting.
That would definitely be a unique one.
Yeah. Whatever. But
get thinking on it, man. I'm sure thered be some good drive behind it in the community. That would be dope to see.
Yeah, I mean,
that might be.
I've seen some dope people that aren't design, just like people that create combinations in the community of like two brands. They're not official decks or anything, but some of them look so dope.
Oh yeah.
Some of them look so good.
This could be some really cool things. We'll see. I think maybe it'll happen. Like an Anyone and Fontaine collaboration would be very interesting to see. There'd be a lot of interesting things to see in a lot of different, alternate realities, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm sure they exist.
Yeah. What was the other Kyle question?
So I'm actually going to pull it up because it's a very existential question. So you'll see it on the bottom of the screen there. Do you ever
Health
really
first.
do anything out of your own conscious choice, or are we always controlled by someone's external stimulation or motive?
Okay, this is very deep and philosophical. Please feel free to ask philosophical questions because I like those sort of things. Do you ever really do anything out of? Okay, so here's the way I see it, right? Okay, and this is quite an interesting bit of philosophical knowledge that I feel is relevant to this question. It's you sort of start. I think everybody has maybe everybody has a determined end line. Everybody has a determined end. So you start at the top of the hill, and your conscious choice is a stream of rivers that go right down to the bottom of the mountain. So you're always going to end up at some final destination. I think that's also where that is determined by how you come down the mountain. I don't know personally. I think we've got free will, but there's also something out there. I also think there's something beyond. Yeah. So that's my personal beliefs.
I definitely think that's a solid question there and a solid answer. I mean, Kyle's coming up with some heavy ones here now. I think we challenged him by rating his first one a 6.5. We got him motivated.
Yeah, Kyle.
That was a solid 7.5 there. That was really
good. Kyle, you're doing a good job, buddy. I think stay on key with those and beta, and we'll be good. he comes in with some good questions. It's pretty cool.
Oh yeah. Have we got any more questions?
So let's see if anything else was coming in. So we did have one question here. Let me see. So, and this is actually from someone who, this is actually kind of a heavy question also. So, and not a philosophical heavy, but I think from a personal point of view heavy. Steve's like, now. So I guess let me read the context on this so I can get it right here. So I guess with everything going on, especially in the US with like a lot of the police brutality resulting in a lot of the protests and subsequent, riots and things like that. There was a post a while ago that you had made that was in support of an artist. And and I think the question was, what was your point of view about what the art actually meant to you and why you supported?
Are they
refer? Let's get
I think it's the animation.
Pedro's?
Yeah, let me check here.
With what?
Was it the police car?
I think it
animation?
was. Yeah. Okay. Which I have not seen the animation. I'm not exactly sure as to which. If I
the animation's sick.
Is it?
Where are we talking? Where am I looking?
Okay, so this is referring to an animated GIF that a friend of mine, well, actually not a friend of mine, he is a friend of mine, but he designed the Joker and the Thief decks.
Okay.
And he did an animation of it was like a police car being like turned over and was fired, and like a dove flew out of it. I just thought that was a really cool piece of art. So try not to read into it too much.
Not fair enough.
Yeah. Like the whole political thing is a big thing, and it's a whole can of worms. And there are things that I believe, and there are some things I don't believe. And I could say one thing, and a camp of people will try and cancel me, and then I'll say one thing, and another group of people would be supportive, and then everyone else would hate me or whatever. Like, I'm not going to get into politics because everyone's got a different opinion, and honestly, just do what you need to do for you, have some personal responsibility, and get on with life.
No, I 100% agree there.
Important.
No, I think
that's all I'll say.
No, I think that's fine. I have not seen the animation. If I do, Steve, if you find it, James.
I didn't either. I'd love to see it.
Yeah, so I'm curious, but
right.
Is it on your page?
Did I share it up? I don't know. Did I share it on my page? This is such a while ago. Like I must have shared it on my.
It's been a bit. I'm assuming.
What's the name of the guy who designed your deck?
Pedro Oyabide. Oyabide. Yeah, Pedro.
I found him. Let's see.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's on his page, right?
I don't know.
I'll find it.
So it got flagged. I think it got flagged on his. I don't know. It got flagged on his account, and or something like that. Somebody reported it on his account, and it was deleted. So Instagram removed it.
Oh,
really?
I don't know.
Really?
Yeah. Apparently, I don't know. That's what I heard. That's what That's what Pedro had said. But like,
Wow.
I don't know. I thought it was the first time he's done like any animation work, and I thought that was pretty cool. So, try not to read into it too much, guys.
No, and I think that's fair enough.
Sure.
Not you guys. I'm just talking about
no.
the person that asked the question.
Yeah. I think it's first off, if we do find the animation whether it still survives somewhere in the nethers of the internet, I will link to it in the comments so anyone who's curious can check it out. Again, like I haven't seen it. It's piqued my curiosity as well. So
Pedro is like a fantastic artist, and he has certain beliefs, and he decided to create an animation.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Me personally, I think everybody in the community knows I have my battles, right? And I'm not afraid to go head to head with anybody in the community if it's against what I feel is against humanity, right?
Right.
I respect everyone, and I do have my opinions on a bunch of things. But I also I am great friends with people who have different opinions as me, Mm-hmm. And I think there are things that we all deal with that go either way with those opinions, right? And then there's just some things that we don't give up on, right? It's like, I'm not going to be best friends with a Ku Klux Klan member, let's just say, right? Because we probably don't see eye to eye.
As you shouldn't, yeah.
But that's what I'm saying, But there are gray areas. There's certain things that I will not tolerate, and there are things that I can understand, and people are entitled to their opinion. And like you said, I mean, that's a wormhole that can take up literally 50 shows.
Oh,
yeah. And
absolutely.
It's not worth diving down that hole unless, like you said, you're willing to accept the fact that you are going to hear it immensely from one side or the other. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Look, and that's the thing. It's like, as far as I'm concerned, look, I'll keep it short, but like, as far as I'm concerned, stay in the middle, make up your own mind, try not to just think and just believe what you want to believe.
Right.
I don't give it. The thing is like with all this sort of stuff, I don't care. It's like, all right, fine. Just like do what you're doing.
Yeah.
I'm not inclined to talk politically on a podcast, but
no, that's for sure.
Perfectly fine. Yeah.
No,
that's fine.
100%. That's not what this. We dive into everything except.
Oh, that's
Paul.
And I think
it's so polarizing nowadays. It's just like it's too much. It's too much, and no one's got an answer, and I see it so much. It's spinning your wheels, and it's just do the right thing and have some personal responsibility and get on with it. And you know what? Also, like I see like this comment like from Jamie, someone in the comments is saying, as a business owner, is it important to separate your personal views from your business? And it's like, well, you can read into what you want to read into. Me resharing a piece of artwork that I appreciate from my artist is what it is. So you can assume what you want to assume. I don't care.
Right.
So,
yeah, and I think that's where people are gonna jump to their own conclusions, right? I have a musician.
And that's fine too.
I have a musician friend who wrote a song, and it's an intense song, like super, like fiery song, like literally fiery song. And he usually doesn't write that way. And a lot of people are assuming what the song is about. And they couldn't be any farther from the truth of what the song is actually about. And that's the same way when people post something or whatever. And I mean, you got, like you said, you gotta just do what you think is right for you and your business. And, some things are better left unsaid. And it's, you want to hear one of my guilty pleasures recently?
What's that?
Have you ever heard of Blair White?
No.
Oh my God. I don't know if anybody's heard of Blair White, but my girlfriend played a video of hers on YouTube, right? You have to go watch a Blair White video.
A Blair wife. I'll write that down. Blair
Oh
wife.
my god.
Okay.
Oh my god. Changed my life. That's like hilarious. I swear to God, one day I literally binge watched probably 30 of her videos. Oh my god.
I'm
So
like
funny.
afraid to check this out. Are they actually funny?
Oh, dude, epic,
Right.
so good. They're very political in a weird way. So she's a
Okay.
Republican. She's a Republican, but she's a just amazing. I'm not gonna give you all away because some people will even judge before that. I'm not a Republican, but I can't stop like watching her. She's amazing.
Yeah. I
Amazing.
mean, I can't get into US politics because Australia's got its own bloody problems.
it's not like it's so funny. It's not so much politics, but it's
like a commentary.
just watch her. She's hilarious. Like she told.
I'll take a
all
look.
right,
Yeah.
long story short, she's a transgender woman. Okay, and she's a Republican, and she totally just talks about the transgender. Just go watch it. It's hilarious.
Cool. I'll
We now know how James
I'll
is
leave it
spending
at that.
his Friday.
I'll leave it at that. Go watch it. It's hilarious. If you want to laugh, it's pretty funny.
all right. I'll check it out.
Oh my gosh.
So look, I'm gonna like just answer Dawn's question.
Yeah.
What inspired your most recent design? And just again,
Which one, the Wayfarers or the other one?
Yes, if she's talking about Wayfarers, Wayfarers was essentially inspired by like a love of travel, and just that feeling of being on the road, that fire that you get in your belly, that sort of that intuition that guides you, and that adventure that comes with it. It's like it's something. When I do a themed deck, basically it's based around my own interests and loves. Like I love the idea of Mad Max, for example, like that post-apocalyptic vibe. But I also love cars and vehicles and like V8 engines and Australian film culture. So that's what Dystopia was represented by. And like Seafarers was the nautical deck. And that's something I grew up sailing and fishing and things like that.
Cool.
So
It's really cool.
So I loved nautical. So that's definitely something I had to do. So Wayfarers is basically an extension of myself. I love travel, and I think it's a pretty much the perfect representation of Joker and a Thief and me. It's just a representation of what I love. So that's what inspired it, really. And also it's just something different too. It's a different sort of it's a different sort of thematic branch that could be reached out to people who are travelers, people who do want to take a deck with them on the plane, like or wherever. So it is really, again, for everyone. And so I'm also thinking about other markets that are out there, like people who are travelers. Airlines used to give out free decks of cards. You go to hostels around the world and people are playing with a deck of cards. They're having a good time,
Yeah.
And that sort of manual having fun with a physical object instead of on a computer or on a TV or whatever is sort of coming back. There's something analog and nostalgic to it. And I think that would appeal. It might appeal to a wider audience.
Yeah,
Definitely.
Is there one point? There may be where you were somewhere. Like do you remember where you were when that thought of Wayfarers kind of hit you? Were you in a certain place? Were you in Nepal? Were you like, where were you? Where you're like, I want to do this.
I don't know. I think it was just always like. I think it was just always it never really hit me. It was just sort of in the back of my mind. I actually got, the name Wayfarers from I thought Wayfarers. I'm like, oh, Ray-Bans. Ray-Bans are called Wayfarers. It's a good name. What does Wayfarers mean? Blah, 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 blah. And I just thought, yeah, no, this is a cool name for a deck. And like, hey, Pedro, let's go wild. Like, that's what I talk to like my artists about. It's like, okay, well, I want them to have a fun experience. Like, I don't want to be like, this is my brand, this is my direction. It's like, you know what? This is sort of like the general precipice. Like, this is the general idea of what we want to do. Go ahead and just have a really good time with it. And it's like, well, and then they send the reviews. It's like, well, let's change maybe this and maybe this, but otherwise you freaking nailed it. And it's allowing that artist to have that self-expression and to be able to just do what they want to do instead of like getting into the nitty-gritty, and I learned that quite early on.
Uh-oh, Tyler disappeared. Did he freeze?
I have no idea, but I'm currently in this strange box.
I know. Both of us. Well, okay, we'll come down here. Let's see. Oh, there we go.
There we go. He's back. What happened?
Tyler, I think Tyler needs to return his capture card and get a new one.
No, I closed the wrong window.
Super professional, Tyler.
Oh my god! Listen, no one ever said I was a professional here. But I was actually, it was funny. I was looking at Pedro's Instagram real quick because I was curious. You were talking about the work he had done and working with him on Wayfarers. How did you two actually like hook up for the original deck?
I found him on Instagram.
All right, and you just reached out.
This working. Well, yeah, I was looking for designers, and I had somebody on Fiverr designing something. It was god awful, disgusting piece of shit. Yeah, it was so bad. And then I was looking through Instagram, and I found like Pedro's work, and I thought, wow, this just like really like appeals to me and screams to me. And I just said, hey, do you want to do a deck of playing cards? And he was totally down for the idea. And
do you still have that Fiverr's like the proofs or anything from that?
I have some. Yeah, I do have some of the designs.
Oh my god, we gotta see it! Show us.
Oh my god!
If not live, then at some point in the future, we definitely gotta see those.
Trust me, you don't want that to get out.
we can do that as an after part of the after show.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my gosh, man. I mean, listen, you know what? Like at the time, I'm sure it made a lot of sense. Looking back, I'm sure it's horrifying, but
well, it was like, I was, in my last year of high school, and sort of, I had worked, both me and my friend had worked a job to sort of like fund the design.
Yeah.
And then, and we were like, we were just looking, and it was just like, how do we do this? Like, and we'd like, I had sketch stuff and things like that. And I'm like, no, this doesn't work. I'm not good enough to do. I can't create a Theory 11 deck like, like style, like quality deck on my own in my bloody like notebook. I don't have the technology. So I just reached out, I outsourced. And
oh my gosh.
I just found, so that's how it happened. But,
that's nice.
I mean, listen, you made a hell of a connection there, and obviously, you like his work enough that you'll carry each other through a lot more decks, which I think is awesome.
And we definitely have plans to do more in the future. And yeah, like this deck here had like the design elements were designed by him, but I put it together.
Nice.
So there's definitely, and we've got more decks coming out, which are going to be really, really cool. So I love
the inspiration to that one. Oh, you said vintage, like vintage.
Yeah, it was like a vintage. Like I sort of watched. I watched a few, like just some older movies. Like it was actually inspired a lot by like sort of old motorcycles and sort of like, the sort of vintage branding. I don't know, sort of the dot reminds me of like the number on like the side of like a Le Mans racing car or like something like that. So like number 12, and like they had very vibrant colors and very contrasty colors. And I just thought, well, so those little influences of what I enjoy sort of leak into the design, even if it's not necessarily thematic. So,
yeah.
So
best newest magic book out there. Do you do magic? You don't do magic at all, right?
No, none. I mean, I know one trick. It's like this shitty transfer, but that's it. Yeah.
after your shaming, you no longer touch magic.
Yeah, exactly. I was vilified. Shame. And I was like, well, fuck this. I'm not doing this anymore.
I'm getting into cardistry.
I keep one trick around that's just impressive enough that people will leave me alone. Like it's like I'm out and they're like, show us a magic trick. I'm like, I do cardistry, but like, show us a magic trick. And I'm like, okay, all right, here you go. God. And they'll be like, can you show us any more? I'm like, no, I'm going to get a beer now.
Tapped out. Sorry. Oh my God, that is too funny. But
that is crazy.
Sorry,
no magic book for you.
Sorry, Mike.
Sorry, Mike.
Sorry, Mike.
No recommendations.
Mike, hit us up on Instagram at Deckin Around, and I'll do a little digging and find a good magic book for you. How's that?
Yeah, expert at the table. Right?
Well,
Expert at the card table.
Yeah, we'll find.
That's a recent one.
Yeah,
That's a new one.
We'll definitely
I
find
heard
you
that book's
something.
impossible to follow anyway. You have to be a genius to read that book.
That's what I've heard
Expert at
too.
the card table.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tried it and I was like, but I like that whole community too. I like that sort of card sheet community. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, no,
Because it's
that's
sort of
really,
like, yeah, it's a grungy magic that
yeah,
can get you killed. It's really cool.
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
Thinking
We were talking to Jeremy, and he was talking about all those like old school OG
Yeah.
gamblers, and like they don't have names for slights. They just do crazy stuff that nobody even knows about,
yeah.
and they've been doing it for God knows how long.
And they look like they're terrible at shuffling cards because they don't want you to think that they're some like card sharks. So they're like stumbling.
They're intentionally bad.
Exactly. And I
So
think
cool.
it's so.
That's my
awesome.
excuse. That's
Yeah.
my excuse.
There you go.
Oh yeah, I love that whole realm. I think that's just such a cool thing. I think David Blaine was talking about a particular guy on Joe Rogan's podcast recently about the kid that learned how to throw dice so accurately that he won millions around the world and nobody really sort of knew. So like those sort of like well, not necessarily card cheating, but those cheating techniques, like to me, it's a very, very fascinating aspect of the card world. And like Jeremy's one of the best. Like I've known him like since Instagram sort of started.
He's
like
phenomenal.
OG Instagram. Yeah, he's great. Fantastic.
Yeah. I can't get over how amazingly he handles the deck of cards. It's mind blowing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
Time and practice, just really, really cool.
no doubt.
10,000 hours, man.
Yeah.
I have like 5 hours under my belt, so I have a long way to go.
Yeah, we got a lifetime to go. Oh my god.
That's for sure.
Well, James, we really appreciate having you on tonight, man. Honestly, this has been a fun time chatting it up. We're honored to
thank you
have
very much.
And we're honestly, we're so glad you showed off some of the new decks that you're working on. Obviously, the Wayfarers coming out soon.
So exciting.
I'm gonna hopefully I have this on my clip. I don't have that on my thing anymore. Let me pull that up again real quick to click the link for the Kickstarter. Instead, I have some information about what. Yeah.
September 18th at 8 a.m. Pacific time. We've got $10 early bird specials, so be there. Go to the link, click it, and be notified for the launch. So
now the early bird's going to be a certain amount, or for 24 hours, or are you allowed to say
they're going to be. There's only a certain amount. We only do.
Okay.
I haven't done any time limited ones, but only for a certain amount. So get in quick.
Link is on the chat. Yeah, 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern. Definitely make sure to check it out September 18th. It's a great looking deck. I'm excited to see what you end up doing with that color, the teal and orange one. Whether you bring it on as an add-on or as a standalone, that's also going to be a beautiful one. I'm really excited for the Wayfarers line.
Yeah,
thank you.
And I'm excited for everything else you're going to be bringing out in the near future, man.
Thank you so much, guys. I appreciate you having me on, and thank you to everybody who is viewing and for all your questions. I love you all. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we really appreciate it,
man.
So before we tune out here, got a quick word from our sponsors here, and then we're going to let you guys know who we're having on next week. So make sure to stick around real quick. Introducing the Latin Quarter playing cards and gaming chips from McClure and Stark. This ultimate poker player's chip set will turn every poker night into an underground casino night. Make sure to check them out on Kickstarter now.
You may have experienced capturing fireflies in a jar on a warm summer's night as a kid. Seeing that glow was like holding the power of lightning in your own hands. This is Marvelous Decks. Join us as we celebrate the marvelous and amazing things that surround us. Sign up and get notified at marvelousdecks.com.
And don't forget, Marvelous Decks are showing off the first full preview of their first deck this Saturday at 9:05 Central Standard Time on National Hummingbird Day. So make sure to check that out. And next week, our guest is Heba. She is known on TikTok as a female. Well, she's a female magician. She's known on TikTok and Instagram as Royal Pain Is Me. Definitely check her out. She is a phenomenal magician, up and coming, really has a great personality to her, and really makes the whole kind of magic act really interactive and fun. So definitely check her out. We're excited to have her on next week. So check out the show as well. And again, thanks everyone.
She is a savage.
Yeah, no, she's
She
awesome.
is
She's
so
gonna be.
badass.
I'm not familiar with her work. I'm gonna have to check it
Bro.
out.
Yeah, check her out.
She
Honestly,
she is
she's got
beyond
a stage
confident.
presence. Like, yeah, she's got a
Savage.
stage presence. She's definitely on the up. Like, she's coming up with her magic for sure. She's got some skills there. She's got some stuff to learn. But personality wise, she's gonna crush it. Like,
Dude, oh my god, it's
Uh,
so cool. I saw one of her videos the other day. Is she was doing just some cool vanishes and stuff. And someone was like, "Yeah, but can you do it blindfold?" And then she put out another video with her blindfold, so smooth, like super quick, super like just crushes it.
Definitely gonna be an
gonna
up and coming name. Yeah, definitely check it out. Should be a fun episode. Again, thank you so much everyone for coming tonight. Make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. James, again, thank you. We had a
Thank
blast,
you.
man.
man.
Appreciate
Thank you so
it.
much for coming out.
Thanks so
Yeah.
much for having me on.
Our pleasure, man.
Wayfarers, everybody. Wayfarers.
Yes,
Wayfarers.
September 18th.
September 18th.
Check it out.
Ah, gotcha.
Hey, guess what, everybody? Peace.
Peace.